doing this.
Description. Now on to...
Can't hear that, can you, Aaron?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Music?
Yeah, I can hear all of it. I can hear all of it.
Okay, that's interesting. I guess this is in the same window. I always just play one of my music videos before I start.
All right.
Wow, weird. Okay, never mind. We should be visible now. Maybe not. Oh, I'm checking my stream. Yep. Always screws up.
9:40.
Stream's not showing anything. Okay, now it is. Okay, beautiful. That's what I try to do when I try to set some shortcuts. But to anyone's watching, this is Aaron here. I believe we are live. I keep on going to this just to make sure everything's looking hokey dokey. Not that I have anyone watching at the time. But some people like to join in later, and some people watch it after I post it.
All right.
I always get my chat. So, this is the video we'll watch. Encanto Is Bad. Aaron, what do you think about that? Just from the title. Well, Encanto Bad.mp4. Just from the title alone.
Encanto being bad, I think that I think the message it sends sometimes, when I look back on how it's affected pop culture, is pretty bad. I'm pretty much in the middle because I'm seeing it for the movie it is and for like the cultural impact. I'll be honest.
I believe it actually has some decent cultural impact. I'm sure we'll both be getting into that.
Yeah.
Sort of using this. I personally think it's horrible, but I have more writing roots to me. So a lot of the points he brings up in this video seem to be very cut and dried, like treating this movie like it should be something other than it is.
Yeah.
I guess you won't know. You haven't tried to watch this video, have you?
No, I haven't. I actually looked at Encanto before we did this, just so I could have it more fresh in my head.
So let's see all his points. And of course, he has a little sponsor spot, which I got us in a spot beyond that. So we'll get this started.
To this. I analyze media professionally, and while that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm good at it, it does mean that I do it a lot. So I've gotten pretty good at looking at something and saying, oh, that's why people like this, even if I myself do not like it. Cool animation, exciting fight scenes, and a semblance
of... It says the stream is paused.
Oh, that is absolutely fine.
Because you minimize the application. Oh, yeah.
No, should be good.
Oh, no. The thing actually says on my screen, Vincent has minimized their application. Sit tight.
Wow. Weird. Yeah, sorry about that. I did not minimize. Oh, I did not know this swapped. I, is it on your end? Okay, there you go. You see it now?
Yeah. Oh, then it said it was minimized again. That was weird. Second
Maybe I have
shot
to.
to you what I see.
Yeah, I understand. Maybe because I popped out of it.
Probably.
This is turning out to be a poll.
Political.
Hmm. Oh, does Discord just hate me? Yeah, I see that. Okay, live. Streaming. Saying something about network connection. Okay, let's do this again. What do you think what's being said so far? He thinks he does this professionally. Professionally does not mean he's doing it very well.
I mean, haven't seen much so far. He hasn't said anything yet.
Yeah.
And we've
I,
got 18 more minutes to go.
I've been watching too much EFAP. I want to get nitpicky sometimes.
All right, let's get nitpicky. I think his use of Attack on Titan is shallow and pedantic. It
So
lacks any
pedantic.
sort of, yes, lacks any
In,
creativity.
Indubitably, Aaron. Truly a boy. A lot of his takes seem to be anime. This is why I'm so dismayed since I've done so many reviews on anime. And somehow a man like this of, okay, let's start it again.
We are men of
Intrigue that
culture.
hints at a broader commentary on the real world. Imaginative universe that sets the stage for any number of stories still contained in a child-friendly and easily accessible package. Small-minded tribalism that
Minimized
manipulates
again.
unfortunate poor people into thinking that their ships will come in as soon as X minority stops doing whatever it is they're doing to keep their team down, or you're rich. So when I watched Disney's smash hit Encanto and came up with nothing, I figured saying that it wasn't all that great would be an uncontroversial take, and boy howdy was I wrong. You internet
Well, besides that one point, he feels the need, even though it's 2022, feels the need to do that dig right there, and for his character to actually wear mask. Double sadness, in my opinion.
Um, I'd hate to disappoint you, bro, but I didn't even see it. Like, when somehow it keeps saying that you're minimized.
Oh, the
So I'm gonna see if
bastard.
I can do is I'm gonna see if I can listen to it along with you.
Okay. Ooh.
All right.
Yeah, this would actually be a great time to try something. Watch together. Maybe I should have looked into that beforehand. Watch together. Let's create a room. Oh. Oh, hell. Wrong thing. Okay, I'm taking that down. Okay, I'm gonna have to do this watch together because I didn't realize Discord sucked. I don't know if it's your internet or mine.
I played myself.
Okay, here's the watch together.
Hey Bryant, what are you absolutely free. If you want to VPN
Okay. I'm gonna have to copy this. Let's see if this watch together works. I'm sending you a link. Or watch together. I didn't know I would have to get so fancy, but
Oh, this is cool.
okay. Play with it a little bit.
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah.
That was built with streaming in mind, that is constantly on the lookout for data breaches, and that is dedicated to giving you the best deals while shopping online, then Atlas is the VPN for you. Go to atlasv.pn/explanation point or follow the link in the description.
Did it pause for you? Still there, Aaron?
Oh, yeah, I'm still here.
Did it pause for you?
Yeah, pause for me. Yeah.
Restart it.
Now on to this.
Okay.
Hey Bryant, what are you doing? Well, I'm trying to get a good look at Atlas, the giant that holds up the sky, but there's something weird about him. His entire body is black. Constantly on the lookout for data breaches, and that is...
Sorry, I had to skip ahead. Did it go back and skip ahead for you?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess it works. Okay. Okay, let's start from this point. Press play. What marker are you at?
1 minute, 8 seconds.
Okay, that's where I'm at. Press play, and you can just pause it if you have something to say.
While that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm good at it, it does mean that I do it a lot. So I've gotten pretty good at looking at something and saying, oh, that's why people like this, even if I myself do not like it. Cool animation, exciting fight scenes, and a semblance of political intrigue that hints at a broader commentary on the real world. Imaginative universe that sets the stage for any number of stories still contained in a child-friendly and easily accessible package. Small-minded tribalism that manipulates unfortunate poor people into thinking that their ships will come in as soon as X minority stops doing whatever it is they're doing to keep their team down, or you're rich. So when I watch Disney's smash hit in...
So, did you catch that part?
Oh, yeah. I was trying not to respond to it because it's like, oh man, he's just exaggerating all sorts of points.
Yeah.
Star Wars. I mean, as far as the Republican thing, it's like, oh, that's very specific and very small-minded. Because I mean, I'll just be honest. There's a lot of minorities who happen to be Republican.
What would
So
you
I'm
know
getting.
about minorities, Aaron? What would
I
you
know.
know?
It's like I'd have to be black or something to have that sort of opinion.
Yeah.
Whoa. um, but yeah, man, it's real small-minded. Also, the idea that there's tons of stories to be told in Star Wars, I guess, but they're all around the same story. There's a war happening out in the stars. It's all the same.
Are you trying to say Star Wars is all about war?
If the
War, what
shoe
is
fits,
it good for? Absolutely nothing.
clankers. Yeah. Yeah, man. He's got some exaggerated points, but I'll hear him out. Let's see how ridiculous this gets.
Yep.
Oh, I'll play.
Yeah.
Encanto and came up with nothing, I figured saying that it wasn't all that great would be an uncontroversial take, and boy howdy was I wrong. You internet folk really like Encanto, and I didn't get it. I had to watch YouTube videos explaining it to get it. I had to make a Twitter thread asking you to help me get it to get it. And you know what? You're wrong. Alright, you're not wrong. You're never wrong for like...
No, he is wrong. Yeah, we'll get into why he's wrong, besides wearing a mask on just his avatar, which extreme virtue signaling, probably why the Republican did get that.
Yeah. Like, if I were like a hardcore Republican, I'd be like, look at him, so weak. Even his avatar needs a mask. But as far as not getting it, there's not much to get. Like if you can't understand Encanto, I doubt you could understand anything. I'm not You're not expected to really have to connect with the story's emotional narrative to just get the fact that it's about something more, you know?
Yeah,
Uh,
and it's sad to see an anime reviewer, but this shows the level of people who like anime. Oh God, I forget. I like anime. I did reviews, but I'm not this brain dead that I would be like, I watched a video on it and I still don't get it. So you're wrong. Oh, you're not wrong because you like it, but you're still wrong about it being good. And that's
yeah,
about it.
it's this is the opposite of when people tell me like, "Oh yeah, Dragon Ball Z is a great anime." Well, what makes it so great? Well, because of the fights. But what makes a good anime? Because if that's what a good anime is, then oh man, Ghost in the Shell and so many other animes are just not that great. Like what how great is the fight in Akira, you know?
Absolutely. Let's start again and see. Let's not be too pedantic, but 2 minutes in, and he just showed himself to be incapable of understanding it and then calling people who think it's good wrong. Not a very, after a little ad special, but let's not hold that too much against him. Let's hear his arguments out after his posturing.
Liking something. God knows I like my share of absolute garbage media, but some of the points that keep getting brought up just made me think, are we watching the same movie? Because this one does basically nothing right, and I don't get it. The biggest thing that came up time and time again was the music, and that is frustratingly subjective and incontrovertible.
Yes, and really, why is that the first point you're bringing up in this? He's trying to strawman it. The music's what make it great.
Tons of stuff got good music, don't make it great. Um it's a bullet point. Let's I wanna hear what else. I wanna hear what else he's got. Let's go.
Huh.
I can't tell you you're wrong for liking a music. But regardless of how you feel about Lin-Manuel Miranda's kickin' tunes, I can at least objectively say that the songs do a very poor job at doing pretty much anything they're supposed to do. There are 5.5 songs in
On sequitur. I mean, I'm sure you, Aaron, want to hear him out more, but I'm just jumping on that point. Did you have anything to add?
I'm thinking about that too, where it's like, what exactly is a song in a musical supposed to do that it hasn't accomplished here? Um, whatever. Who made? All right,
Yeah.
like
Encanto.
it's like saying, oh, the action scene didn't do what it was supposed to do. Well, what exactly was it supposed to do? Because whatever it was, we didn't care as an audience on the whole. But yeah, let's
He
keep
already
going.
says he doesn't get it, so that's even doubly stupid for him to say. And he brought up objectively. Some of these people are using objectively wrong, and it's starting to piss me off. A lot of these critics are trying to use objective criticism, and they don't know the first thing about it. I blame Mahler. I blame Mahler for that sort of discourse, but people just think that's something they can throw in and not use correctly.
Hey, real quick, I'm looking at the tracks, like the Family Madrigal. That's the first song in the whole movie, and it's literally there to introduce the characters.
Yeah.
Waiting on a Miracle. Um, it's her waiting for her moment to blossom, so to speak. Surface pressure. It's her sister explaining how she's struggling under the surface, but the play on words is it's clear, which is another metaphor for how the problems are very clear to at least two members of the family what's going wrong, but they're trying to pretend like there's nothing there, that it's under the surface. We don't talk about Bruno. It's the story about Bruno. Like, and that's just the first four. Uh,
Okay.
there's like 32 songs here. Uh, so if he's looking for anything else, like I guess the answer is the point of the songs is to tell the story.
Yeah, I
Uh,
knew that I had a winner when I wanted to look for bad videos to actually go over.
then we won't regret it.
Let's hope.
4 of them are trite garbage. Like the intro song, The Family Madrigal, is bad. To be fair, I don't really see anyone going
All right, so bad is it's subjective, but the point of the song gets across what they're trying to do, which is introduce a bunch of characters without having to do the nuance game of a bunch of 7-year-olds who this movie's advertised to. We want kids in the theater. We want them to understand what each character does. And Juliet. Here we have two families, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene. Boom. Instant intro. You know what else does this? Star Wars. Here we are in a galaxy far, far away. Here's the situation. Let's go. You know, it gets you up to speed because we don't really expect everyone to come to the theater to have like a college degree to know how to read into what's going on. All right,
Yeah,
I'm done.
and absolutely great points. And the intro scene builds the sort of mystery around this before you actually get into the song. Then you have Marabella. I might be pronouncing that wrong, but yeah, Marabella. I'm gonna butcher a whole bunch of names and forget a few. But yeah, you get these hints in the beginning and they pop up later on. And this sort of the first song is a tone setter, basic introduction. And I just don't think after you'll probably come to the same conclusion. This guy just doesn't get musical or Disney musicals. I don't know what hole he was hiding in his childhood. His parents threw him in the basement and beat him instead of letting him be raised by Disney songs like most typical parents did. It's just so sad. I'm going to continue. I'm sure he has more bad points. Feel free to pause it and interject since we have this witch to get up.
to bat for this one, but Genghis Kringus, it is obnoxious. Subjectively, it hurts to listen to. The tempo is insane, which does make for a very high energy opening number, but it also made me think that Mirabelle was speaking Spanish during a good chunk of it, and believing that I wasn't intended to understand what she said made me like it more. Because the things that she is saying don't matter. This movie has an enormous problem with telling instead of showing when it comes.
Oh, this is just so stupid. The showing and not telling. I mean, there is different ways, different formats for different people who get into this. Telling and not showing. You're going through the eyes of Isabella, and there is an absolute point for him. To miss this point is just so ridiculously disabled. It's not even funny.
Like, if I told you everything, I don't know.
It's just such a ridiculous point that he's saying show not tell. It it's not a basic rule, and it's about how you do it and also the format. Them saying all this stuff through basically a larger basically this is the surface level look at this family from this member of the family. And that's what the song does. And it degresses into all the kids asking her what is, she's talking about all the magical miracle powers of of her family members. And she's just raving about them. And they keep asking her, what is your power? How does that song end? Or after they conclude the song, how does that end? They're like, oh, she doesn't have any powers. It leads
yeah,
into that after the song, and that's sort of the point of the song.
in a way, it makes sense that she would spend that part of the song deflecting. Um, Much like the other characters, they do not want to express just how bad things are. For her, it's I feel pathetic. For part of the intro is so we can yada yada through a lot of the mystery of what's going on and get straight to the story.
Yep, and it
Oh, we
does
can just
cut through the
oh
bullshit. It introduces the
yeah.
audience, who is primarily its target primarily as children. I believe on a sort of read between the lines, this movie also has a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but consider that's just theory work, and that doesn't really debunk anything he's saying. But story wise, a lot of his other points will be pretty damn dumb. And at this point, his seems pretty damn dumb itself on its own. He doesn't even need to complete the thought too fast. It didn't sound English. Maybe you should listen to more cultures. If this guy is a liberal or a leftist, it would make sense. He's like, they're not speaking English, or maybe apolitical. Who even knows?
I mean, to say like I didn't understand a word you said because I was glad because whatever it was in Spanish, whatever. Um, that feels more racist. It feels like something you'd expect a cartoon Republican to say. Like, I don't understand your goobly glop Spanish language. I'm glad I don't.
Yeah, they have
Like,
talk of woke racism out. There's a podcaster H3H3, and he sort of gotten criticism from a few people, black creators, and there's basically I forget some streamer who got kicked off of Twitch, and he had a convo with him, and the dude I don't even remember the streamer's name. But supposedly he's popular. Don't care for Twitch. He was basically like, oh, it feels sort of racist the way you present this stuff. Woke racism, I believe, is the term that, and even some leftists or people who taught in Destiny's camp, ABBA and Preach, I think, also reviewed that video and sort of talked about Ethan Klein of H3H3, and
yeah.
oh, he's just horrible. Sorry, you probably don't know about that
Oh yeah, I'm
man.
aware of the
Okay.
H3 guy.
Okay.
Like,
Sorry then.
and also we have audio, we have visual. You can show and tell in film. It works. We do it. We've been doing it for ages. Um, it doesn't bother anyone. It's like saying like make sure that everything stays visual and there's action on the screen. Um, you really don't have to abide by a lot of these rules. They're more like guidelines.
Yes.
We can
Absolutely. I mean, as a basic writer, you always want to follow the basic rules of writing. I sort of break that with my writing, but that's because I'm sort of a dumbass writer who just writes for fun. But you generally don't want to break the rules until you know the rules. So show
yeah.
not tell. It's a horrible piece of criticism. You have to say why telling this and not showing this is a bad thing. I say that for a lot of criticism. They just throw out a point. This does this, and that's bad. You don't explain why it's bad, or what about it in this case makes it bad. Maybe he does. Maybe I give him more benefit of the doubt. As I said, I've heard this. It wasn't until he gets to one point that I really like. Okay, gonna do something with this.
All right. All right.
Okay, let's see if he follows this up with actual criticism, not just show tell.
Comes to conveying important information, and that shortcoming is bravely put on display from the very beginning. It feels like this movie is so scared that we're going to get confused that it has to hold up a giant neon sign that tells us exactly what's going on at all times. Sometimes literally, like, what is this? Is this really the best way you could come up with to tell us that this film takes place in Colombia? If the setting of your story is important, then make it important. If it is not important, then why have the sign? Sorry, rambling. The
What a nitpick.
That's not even a nitpick. That's a micro pick of no significant importance. Yes, it is. The actual location has some importance. Okay, but you don't find that out until later. Okay.
Yeah. Look at it like 007 movies do this thing where you globetrot. The location does not matter to any of the moments where he's globetrotting. They'll tell you where he's at, like, oh, he's in or in this case Colombia, or he's in Utah for some reason, or he's in the Caribbean, or like Mission Impossible does it too. The only thing that's important here is there's an action scene. The story is moving forward. You can have the villain anywhere, and the story could have just been the same. But it's there, and it doesn't ruin the movie. It's fine. It's
And
super fun.
and the location is important because of what happens later. He's not
Yeah,
connecting the beginning to what happens at the end, what sort of culture this is, and why
yeah,
these people losing their powers actually gets scary because although it looks all happy and upbeat from the start throughout almost the whole entire movie, you're like, okay, magical people, that's cool. Why are they so celebrate? And not until you get to the end part, you really understand the significance of these miracles in Encanto. And the location does matter if you have an understanding of a historical setting. It's not greatly important. It could be set anywhere in the world, but it does have that connection to the real world.
yeah.
Start up.
Family Madrigal. As a song, it plays right into these same kind of pitfalls. It functions as a giant neon sign. It's a roll call, functioning the same way as the nameplates in the opening of Bakano or My Hero Academia, and I usually make anime content if you're just here for the Disney. But the big difference between the lines in the Family Madrigal and the pictures of the heroes of Class 1A flashing across the screen is that the Family Madrigal takes up so much time to say nothing. If you have so many characters that you need to spend 5
Oh, for Christ's sakes. His criticism here about so many characters and most of them aren't fleshed out or characterized will be brought up, at least to a good amount. He's going to get into another point which I completely disagree with. I mean, if he defends like Hero Academia or any of that stuff, this is a movie. That's a TV series. You will focus on certain characters in different episodes, and some people on Hero Aka will not get fleshed out to a certain degree. They get. What are your thoughts on that, Aaron?
Like going with like the My Hero Academia thing. Yeah, a lot of those characters don't get a lot of time on screen. So to have some sort of reminder of what they can do and what their character is, that would have been useful. That would have been really useful because like when have we ever spent like it's sort of the Naruto thing where you're introduced to a character and like man, wait till you get to their arc. Wait till you get to see what they can do. And that's great. In My Hero, you really don't get a lot of that. You get to spend some time with. We're getting off topic. When it comes to introducing the characters, it's important just to set the scene. It's a storytelling device, man. People do it all the time. Um, and the fact that it's a 19-minute video and that song happens at the very beginning and is it's quickly forgotten.
Uh, it's it's.
It's like
I would argue with you. I would say it's quickly ju- juxtaposed juxtaposed to the next song when they go into the family dynamics. You have the list up, I believe. What the next song is? Marabella basically,
waiting for a miracle.
yeah, she got
Yeah,
denied a miracle. And the fact he's just focusing on this first song without making any connection to the next song is just pretty much showing a lack of cohesion with his criticism. He's gonna harp on this point for a while, the large cast, which is not a criticism on its own, and it's rather feeble minded to just say it has a lot and it doesn't have the runtime to flesh out all the characters. You don't need to flesh out all the characters all the time. Do the characters serve the purpose they're supposed to do in the story? Are they well characterized? Are they consistent? Those are the points that you really want to look at. Oh, on Star Wars, I want to know every one of those stormtroopers' backstory. We only get Ben. They shouldn't have all those stormtroopers. They should have just had Finn and like the guy who died and someone next to Kylo Ren or some crap like that.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Where this song is directly juxtaposed, even the way it sounds, the similarities from one song to the next. One song is the image that she presents of how proud she is of her family, and the other side is how she feels about her place in it. It's the answer to the question of who are you? And what she is not, she says at the end, like, she's not okay. She's depressed. She feels like an outsider. Even in the picture that they take together, she's not there because she's not special.
Yep.
Um,
This is sort of the backstage view of stars, is how I see it's set up from the very beginning. You know, you have the backstage crew, you know, maybe extras or supporting actors who do a lot of work in the back scenes. I was in a small little movie, and I did a couple little things for this student movie. I wasn't prominently in the movie, but I helped out here and there. There's a lot of backstage actors, and the fact that she was born to be a backstage stagehand, so to speak, you see that characterized throughout the whole thing. Families celebrating the new child, the youngest child, I forget his name, the animal speaker, new child. She's consoling him and being like, "Don't be nervous, but you didn't get your powers. It'll be fine." She's consoling him. She's setting up all the decorations.
yeah. All right.
Yeah. Unpause it. I don't want to touch this video any more than I have to.
All
Play it again.
right.
Percent of your runtime telling us their names and superpowers and nothing else, then you need a 12-episode Disney Plus miniseries, not a movie. I'm generally
False. Oh my God. Sorry. The idea that I have to spend 30 minutes a character just to understand who they are is ridiculous. You really don't need that much time. A lot of times you can do a story where you introduce a character and you have everything you need to know about that character in one scene because the actor's doing his best to deliver the performance. It's there for you to understand. The moment you see Darth Vader, that those first couple of scenes where he's still on that ship that the rebel with Princess Leia, everything there says everything you need to know about this man. He's
Yes.
rough, he's tough, he's willing to kill a dude or two, and he's gonna get what he wants.
Yep.
And he's doing it all by force. He's a man of mystery. He seems more machine than man. And if they don't have enough, they characterize him with little sentences here and there throughout A New Hope. But you don't need that much to say a lot about a character. In fact, you can do the same thing with Boba Fett. Those few scenes he was in with hardly any lines said almost everything you need to know about that character. Oh, I give him a series so we can flesh him out more, but I think to a lot of fans, all the mystery was part of what made him interesting. Part
And
of what
that
made
one
Han.
meme sort of destroyed Boba Fett in Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. Like even in Han Solo's case, where it's like, oh man, who is this character? Um, well, he's kind of cool. He's a rogue. Let's give him a movie. Now we know too much about this man, and what we know is actually quite, it's okay,
Oh, it's
but it
done
didn't have to be.
badly. How did he get his last name, Han Solo? Oh, you're by yourself, Solo. How did he meet Chewie? Oh, Chewie attacked him, but somehow he talked to him in Wookiee. Sometimes if you don't have the good answers, sometimes it's better not to know. Sometimes you don't need to know everything about these characters. Sometimes knowing can ruin it, especially if it's written badly.
Yeah. So having a little bit of information about a character is more than enough. Sometimes when I have to read characters for like a play or whatever, you're not given more than like a few sentences of like description, and then you kind of just run with whatever you interpret from those two sentences to make the character with.
Yeah.
Um, but
You're a DM, so I'm sure you know how to give characterization. I'm an actor. There's roles where you just get a few lines. How do you how do you characterize the rest of your character? You have to figure that out. You create if there's not enough in the text, you a good actor will look at their placement in the world, their few lines, their relationship to all the other characters, and try to project that with their acting.
Yeah, but you don't need 6 episodes, or in the case of like a show like One Piece, 1,000 episodes to get the point across. Um, but that's
Yeah,
it's very
this
that's a very TV or like we like franchises perspective, you know?
I mean,
Like, oh,
he might bring up a good point, but probably the one point where I stop, you're probably gonna have the same sort of what the fuck is he talking about as I did.
yeah. You know what we could do? We could probably like spend some time helping out his point after the fact. Like, hey, here's a better way of looking at it that doesn't waste 20 minutes. All right, I'm gonna press play.
Okay.
Not a fan of movies. I think it takes a whole lot of skill to elegantly fit a compelling story into 90 minutes, and that's when you only have 3 characters and a villain. There are over a dozen named characters in movies. I think it takes a telling us their
Wait, let me
names
hear
and
him again.
superpowers and nothing else, then you need a
You can back it up. Is that
All
what
right,
you
all right.
did?
Yeah, yeah.
12-episode Disney Plus miniseries, not a movie. I'm generally not a fan of movies. I think it takes a whole
You have a point here that this is really ridiculous that he's trying to criticize this musical after this point.
Only because if you don't like the medium, then your take on any product from that medium is just a waste of time. You're just being hypercritical because you don't like the content in the first place. It's one thing to hear a criticism about an anime from an anime fan. But when you're hearing a criticism about anime from someone who has no idea what they're talking about, then their whole point's irrelevant. It's garbage now. It's empty calories. It's bubblegum, cotton candy.
Well, you
This,
can make a point about certain points, but you shouldn't weigh too heavily into it. I mean, yes, recently I was reviewing a video on this channel and the guy started talking about Doom Eternal and I criticized him. I'm like, this is whataboutism here and that there. I'm Then he brought up other points. I'm like, I don't know about that, but what they're talking about, it out of context, I shouldn't bring it up. But yeah, if you don't like the medium, there's only a limited amount of criticism you can levy at it, and
yeah,
especially if you don't understand the medium either, the type of medium. If you like
yeah,
anime, yeah, I agree with you overall on this point. There are some things you can talk about, but if you don't understand a thing and if you don't like it, if you have a bias against it, it's definitely going to color any review or criticism you have against it, and you have to take that into account.
yeah, yeah. Like, I'm not gonna be the guy who's gonna criticize like hip hop
Hmm.
because I really don't spend that much time in it. Like, I stick with a few artists and that's it. But I don't have the ability to say like this is this is terrible, this is awful, this is whatever. Because there are a lot of people. It's great, and they're seeing something that I don't see. There's a lot of people who love abstract art. They're seeing something I'm not seeing. There's a lot of people who love rock, like heavy metal, that hair metal era, and for people who like Elvis or anyone like that, generations before, they're not really going to make the connection. Like, oh, why should I like that? Unless they sort of immerse themselves in it. Same way with anime. Like, you really don't want someone just watching one anime and making an opinion about the whole genre. You want them to watch a bunch of different anime so they can make up their minds on what they really like about the genre. You can't just look at Attack on Titan and just believe everything's Attack on Titan. A
Or
lot of the other stuff is
everything in
crap.
anime should be like Attack on Titan. Even
Oh,
within
that's the one.
anime, there are other genres.
Yeah,
I don't generally review most shonen because I've sort of grown out of shonen. I can appreciate elements in shonens, but I wouldn't actually criticize any shonens because it's not really something I'm into. It's not even marketed towards me. So I can appreciate the good qualities and I can comment on things in the genre that I don't think, but I wouldn't actually make a video about criticizing a shonen.
Right.
Unless it was a
Uh,
shonen I was into, like Hunter x Hunter, I could actually go through what I. But Hunter x Hunter was excellently done shonen.
yeah. Like
Uh,
it's different because it's like I think in a lot of ways we had more time to sit with Hunter x Hunter and mull over it. We've had some time. This movie came out last year. Um so it's I don't know. I guess I'm splitting hairs at this point. All right, let's go. Play I believe in you.
Compelling story into 90 minutes, and that's when you only have 3 characters and a villain. There are over a dozen named characters in this song. We don't need to know who all these people are, especially not right at the front of the film.
I disagree. They're part of the family. He doesn't even seem to understand. This guy seems extremely culturally out of it. A lot of culture is about big families. You don't want to just bring up the major characters within the song if you're talking about the whole family. I mean, story wise, I understand his misconception that he thinks he needs to characterize that there's too many characters, but no, that's not the way it works in something like this. There is some points that I actually think they don't characterize and don't get into some things if I really think deeply, but it adds to the actual theme of the story. I'm sure it's going to come up later, so I'll hold that off until later. Aaron, what
I mean,
about your thoughts on that?
I think you know, I think he's got a point. You know, you can't do a movie with a bunch of characters, maybe three, two heroes and a villain. Um, if I think about movies with a lot of characters, you gotta do a lot of you gotta do a lot of movies to introduce them all, like Thor, Hulk, Captain America. He's right. I've never seen a movie with 11 people and all of them are decently characterized, and then you follow the plot just as fine with or without having any backstory, and then you love the movie. Or maybe that was Ocean's 11. Who knows? What can I say? The franchise has earned over 400 what $1 million in the box office, and I'm
Ocean's 11?
giving it a low. Yeah, the Ocean's 11 franchise overall has made $400 million, and I'm giving it a low estimate. All right, like that franchise has made nearly $500 million total with over 11 characters,
Is that
and
the
in each
remake or the
movie,
original one? I'm guessing the remake.
yeah, ever since 2001.
This
Yeah, and
is
I'm assuming that's like even with the Ocean's 11 one, every other Ocean's 11 adds more characters. They kept the villain from the previous one, they added a new one, you know? It's not hard to write a movie with 12 characters. They're going to get less screen time, obviously, but you're not there for the characters particularly. You're there for the story. You're there for the movie. What is the movie trying to convey? You're not there to watch every character get fully characterized and then do their thing.
no,
That's not what the movie's about.
I mean, you do want to
You
characterize certain characters to a decent extent to understand. I think he is right that a movie like 2 hours, you can only extremely focus on a few characters, so some of them have to be left out. But songs and little background material, as we were talking about, with acting and how do you portray the character, just real quickly, you get a feel for it, so they don't need many lines. And you have a mute character. And do you need that mute character to have any lines or to be characterized like the dude on the couch in Half Baked? And also, the genre matters. Sometimes in comedies, sort of a background character has a different value, a different role. Like in Half Baked, someone brought this up recently. That's the only reason I forget where I heard it. Someone was talking about the dude on the couch who's always there and he just pops up at the end.
Yeah. Um, like even if you did have all those characters fully characterized, no one would ever say like the movie's about these characters. Because you'd never say like My Hero Academia is more than a show about Izuku or Deku and All Might. No one would ever say it's about Shoto. It's about Bakugo. It's about Ida. It's about Uraraka. It's about Tokoyami. It's about Dabi. It's about Shigaraki. It's about all these characters. No, it's more or less about Deku and All Might. And if we're going even more small, it's about Deku and his growth as a character. Like Naruto is called Naruto because it's about Naruto. There's a bunch of other characters there, but the story is about him, you know?
Yeah,
You can have all these characters, and having them doesn't mean that you have to super flesh them out, you know?
absolutely. Even in anime, even in the shonens, you have a particular focus. You have your lead, and that's Marabella for this. A lot of other characters get fleshed out in this, but it's about her story. This is Marabella's story.
Yeah.
Some characters are going to get fleshed out when they're relevant to the story, to the reveal, but aside from that, if they don't have significant interaction or impact on Marabella's story, which this is at its heart, it's
Mhm.
also about the family as a whole. It's also about the
Yeah.
grandmother. There's a lot of Isabella and Luisa. That
Luisa, yes.
they have a strong focus, which he's gonna bring up, and as I said, mm,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna start it again. I'm curious about when you get to this point, how you're gonna react. I know how I would. Let's
Oh
see if he
no.
calls it.
Spend this time focusing on Mirabelle and her relationship to the family at large. Choose some specific people, her mother, her grandmother, Antonio, Luisa, or Isabella because they're the same character. For everyone else, sprinkle them throughout the movie as needed. Give them small moments
That's exactly what happens. Carrying on.
that show the audience who they are and what they do instead of telling them, or better yet, cut them entirely. This film runs for 109 minutes, including credits. That is not even 8.5 minutes per character. You do not have time to flesh out this kind of cast in a movie. Cut Dolores, cut Peppa, cut Luisa or Isabella. Or if you don't get rid of them altogether, give them the Camilo treatment. Camilo was the perfect character for a movie about a huge family. He stays in the background, making the house feel full and lived in. He has a great power.
Yeah, I just wanted to pause that. He's just been talking too long. Did you not catch that, Aaron?
Yeah, I caught it. It was
Yeah, he's
just
gonna bring it up more later. But yes, this character, he's right. This character was done excellently. The power gives it a lot of role. I will give him credit for this point.
but the reason why you have to ask yourself, like, am I if I'm levying this criticism about why having this character matters and what is the runtime here, then I have to wonder why did they choose to spend so much time on the other two sisters, which is Mirabelle's trying to fix the family after she figures out like something's wrong and she wants to see if she can fix it one sibling at a time or one cousin or whatever at a time. And it's neither of them. That's the mystery. She has to figure out what's going on. It's grandma. It's the last person she would have expected. It's sort of like a murder mystery, like Knives Out. You have all these characters, but in the end, it's the perpetrator and the detective. You know what I'm saying? Like,
People get killed off sometimes in that. They're expendable characters. They could
yeah,
be red herrings. They could have other sinister motives that isn't related to the crime being investigated. Yeah, it has that mysterious element. This is Marabella trying to not being believed about the house cracking up and her trying to figure it out on her own. And the comical aspect, this character he's talking about is sort of a trickster character. It's a good comic relief character. And that
yeah,
sort of fits with his sort of Loki-ish. I'm sure there's other supernatural shapeshifters, but I think about Loki when I think about not the Marvel Loki, although that plays into probably why I think about Loki.
yeah. I think part of the problem I'm having with the guy, now that I look back on it, he just doesn't look at a lot of movies in general. So he has no idea what he's talking about. So every complaint he
I
had.
It's not he
Hmm?
has no idea. He has just very little.
Yeah,
Give him some credit. He has some understanding of how certain stories accomplish their goals, but to applying that to every story, it's a very limited way of looking at all stories.
yeah. All right, I'll hold back on my absolute dunking of this guy. All right, let's go.
For memorable comedic moments, and he doesn't even try to take screen time away from the important things. He is a garnish, not a person. He's there to make the rest of the movie taste better without drawing attention to himself, and he does a great job of it. The biggest offender here is Louisa, or Isabella, they're the same character. I just think that Isabella's conflict is a little better supported on screen. Louisa is a
You didn't pause it there. That's where I would have paused. They're the same character. What is your thoughts on that?
Uh,
Too much
you could
wrong
say
to.
in a lot of way. You could say in a lot of ways that all the characters are the same character. If you look at like, okay, um, Luisa is worried about the pressure of appearing perfect, like she has everything under control, but that's only through the lens of her being able to be strong, right? What happens if she's not strong? What is her identity there, right? With the other sister, the hot one, um, with the flower girl, her whole thing is she's never really. What
She's
can I
never
say about
really
her?
seen. She's just a prop, a trophy, something to be toted around. I will agree. I won't agree that they're the same character. You could, at
Yeah,
best, you could say they're the inverse of each other. One's the perfect image for the family. The other one is pretty much the workhorse who freaking
keeps
does
the show
the
going.
job. Without Isabella, without her beauty, would has no other identity, and Luisa, without her strength, has no identity. They have a
Yeah,
similar a similar identity problem. Without their powers, they sort of fall apart. Not really Isabella. She sort of actually gains some strength when she starts making the cactus, and Isabella is the one who breaks down. Let's take a slight digression because the Isabella Luisa conflict is sort of interesting to me. You sort of have the image of a society like influencers on TikTok who try to look pretty and get likes. Like
yeah.
Isabella, they seem perfect online. They make That's their brand. They open their mouth and they're some of the stupidest people in the world. I'm just thinking of Amaranth, who really tries to talk when she's known for tub streams and using her influence. Like, she really went after the person who did the Montseri anime, the guy
Hmm.
who hosted. I don't know if you heard anything about Vic Mignogna, all
Oh
that
yeah, I've heard
fun
of it.
stuff,
I've
and
heard of
how
it.
he's blacklisted, and a convention actually got him into their panel, so they basically demonized him. A certain demographic of people demonized him, and
Yeah, yeah,
but yes, that's way too off topic. But yes, you have the influencers, and you have the women who are seen as strong women. Symbolically, strength has become a very status symbol, icon for strong women in our society. And I don't mind getting a little political. I want to stay away from heavily left right politics because I don't agree with it. But I will go with the strong female heroine. Without their strength, what are they? And the Isabella, I'm not Isabella, the Luisa sort of shows you can't be strong. You lose your value without that strength icon, so to speak.
yeah. I think what's interesting is this movie, in some ways, can be interpreted as sort of an anti-cultural statement where like currently everyone looks for identity somewhere. They want to be if they want to be they them's. They want to be zimzers.
They want to be
Um,
special
yeah,
in some
we
way.
want to have something to hold on to that we are that makes us us. Um, where the basic you're part of a family that loves you and that stands whether or not you're strong, whether or not you're beautiful, whether or not you're perfect, whether or not you line up with what I want, you're still part of this family. And you see that in like the way that they treat Bruno, where he's not part of the family because he doesn't have an identity that works for the family.
And
Whereas,
Marabella also.
yeah, Maribel is not in the picture in the beginning. They want to keep her out because she doesn't have the identity that we're looking for. And like this idea, this ideal person, this ideal Madrigal, where once you lose that ability, what are you? They're so worried about losing what they think they are. And if what the thing that makes you you isn't something that can be taken from you, it's you. And I think that's a beautiful message to send to children. Not your identity or whatever you think you are. You're not a him, her, they, them, uh, Pikachu, Dorito. You are.
Okay. Attack helicopter covers all that fun stuff. That all I want to identify as a attack helicopter is the greatest meme to trump all of that.
I'm a demi-queer pansexual who likes to fork the pan.
We
Um,
can throw out a million of these xeno pronouns.
yeah,
They are getting to a ridiculous degree. Just want to be special, want to have their own special pronoun. You have something special. It's called a name. You can change it. Might cost money to legally change your name, but you can do it. You can call yourself Max Payne the Second Get Vivangelion. Just call me Matt Payne for short.
yeah,
Everyone online wants to be seen. They want to be known. If they can't, they'll do various things. This is why trolls online for attention.
yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of
Um,
dynamics at play in all this conversation, but can you really cover that in a 20-minute video? Hell no. Okay, he's just throwing out some simple ass criticism. I mean, if you wanted to do a focused look, you could probably spend 20 minutes on just the Isabella Luis dynamic there and making a case for why they're the same person. It would take at least 10 minutes to make a decent argument with that, but he's probably just going to move on. This is when I'm like, oh, really? These are the same character. They serve the same plot. I don't even understand the argument.
yeah. All right. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Fan favorite, if Twitter is to be believed. So many people hear her song and they can relate to feeling like they alone have to deal with all of their family's crap without ever showing a single bead of sweat, and that's great. For every older sister watching this in a theater and seeing herself carry every hardship she can so that her siblings will never know strife, that has gotta be some dang good catharsis. And it's a shame that it isn't supported by the film at all. Surface Pressure is a fun song. I like listening to it, and it could have been very powerful if it were given to a character with a little more meat. Louisa sings about being the stalwart protector of the family, taking on all the burdens of sisterhood in unflinching silence, but she doesn't, though. What burdens? The only burdens we see her carrying through the film are literal burdens. Donkeys, pianos, churches, and yes, I know what a metaphor is, but metaphors only work if we know what they're metaphors for. In the entire
See, he's totally missing the mark with this character. He's not considering the identity of the character and how that's the core. Why the hell does she need to lift weights if she magically is super strong? Why does she need to work out in the morning, lift weights at all? Because it's part of her image, part of her identity as the strong one. She feels like she doesn't have a place. And again, his obsession with not be able to relate this to any other characters. it's not explicitly said, but it's the grandmother who sort of cultivate
Put the
this
pressure.
mindset within their children. The fact he's not factoring this in shows that he's just a brat, probably, okay? Who probably just parents let him do whatever he wanted. He probably had no family to rely. Well, let me not get into criticism on him, but still, I don't know if this is coming from a personal place or a story place that he's taught.
Yeah,
I don't believe anything he's saying is correct. He's getting the
yeah,
wrong message from Luis, and he's just making it out to be like hashtag relatable. You're such a simplistic it's such a simplistic view of this girl, and not understanding the point of the character of Luis is just
yeah,
absurd to me. It just makes me think he's very limited, as you said. He doesn't
yeah.
consume enough different types of media, it sounds like. Can't say that for sure. That's what it feels like. And probably extends to his personal experiences. I was sort of out of line for what I was saying earlier, but but still, I I hear the stuff and I think about what type of person can make this stupid points of criticism where they're so focused on what people are saying online, they actually don't try to understand. They're looking at the surface level impressions of people who like this, who can't express what they like about these characters in an accurate way, where there are other people who can be like her identity and yada yada yada. I think laid out my points. Aaron, any thoughts?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, I kind of miss the old days of 140 character tweets because you could get across a decent amount of, you could you could, what am I trying to say here? With 140 characters, we were able to communicate a thought. I think one of the saddest stories I ever heard was when my friend told me, like, one of the, the shortest story he ever written. I was like, what is it? One of the shortest stories he's ever heard. And it was pair of used pair of used baby shoes, never been worn.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that does create certain imagery. I mean,
yeah,
on its face, if you put no attachment to it, it's like that's stupid. But when you actually think about the underlying message behind, oof, that is.
yeah,
I mean, you can imagine for yourself. Some people might be saying that's a vent in a story, uh,
yeah. But
but
like, yeah, but the way I just communicated a really sad image into your head with just of not even that long. It was just a sentence, you know.
are
It
you
that it
trying to
doesn't
say
take.
the sequel trilogy did it right? They didn't show that they didn't show or tell. They did no, sorry.
You're
I'm just
right. No, you're absolutely right. Somehow Palpatine survived.
yes,
Somehow.
because he
That's
was
all
on
we
Twitter
need.
at the time, and that saved him.
Yeah, and just to give I know sequel trilogy haters hate this, but Rain Johnson in at least one movie has like a really great way of shortening the explanation just to keep the story moving in
Please don't
Looper.
tell me you're Looper. Oh, I hate Looper. When you get to
I
the end and you realize how nonsense the story is. Oh God, sorry. Keep going.
but he has a great way of dealing with it. He's in the bar with himself where he's like, "How is this working? How are we talking to each other?" And Bruce Willis's character, well, the older version of the same character, says, "We could go back and forth talking about time travel, how it works, and we'd just be pulling out straws. Just know that it works, and this is what's happening." Because so many movies try to explain time travel, and then so many people, disagree. Like that's not how time travel works. At the end of the day, you paid money to see people time travel, knowing full well it was about to happen. And now you're going to argue about this magical thing works? Like Avengers Endgame. Like, how can they go back in time without creating another alternate reality? Oh, they're messing up the timeline, blah, 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 blah. You just complained about one detail about a movie with a man who swings on buildings. Oh, after who just came back from the dead after being dead for 5 years, thanks to a bunch of glow rocks on a glove. Like none of this makes sense, but because of the context of the story that we're imbibing, that we're watching, it makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
Um,
Endgame was a horrible addition to Infinity War's awesomeness. Neither movie was perfect, but sorry, I am a big sci-fi geek, so when time travel gets involved, yeah, it's better not to explain it, but when you get into the mechanics of, yeah, it's just my type of brain that I don't want time travel unless you do it right.
yeah,
I'm
like
sorry. They did write themselves in a hole, but we'll have to agree to disagree on that. Maybe we'll have a debate on that one day.
cool, cool, cool. All right, all right.
But I do understand your point, that sometimes it's a matter of how much you're willing to actually suspend your belief of suspending. How much are you willing to grant a story?
Yeah,
Credibility, and yeah, time travel in game, I hate it, but I hate almost all time travel that is tough to pull off. I think it's lazy, but it is in the right place, it is in the right universe, and they took an interesting approach with it. The quantum state with Ant-Man, I do agree that was an interesting look into it, and it could have worked.
yeah.
Just didn't, but it was placed in the right place.
All right.
Okay, let's just continue. I sort of lost my point there.
Her film,
It's
Luisa
all
is
right.
never criticized by Abuela, she never speaks to her parents, and she never stands up for either of her sisters. Let's imagine a movie wherein Mirabel and Isabella were being unduly pressured by Abuela to fit certain familial roles. They really aren't, but let's imagine that they
Oh, God. So stupid. They're not. Does everything. They're not pressured to fit certain roles? Do you disagree with that?
They are pressured to fit in, but exactly what role? Like
It's
they're
not.
just told to be special, and like she doesn't feel special. It's one of the easiest. It's I'll tell you later. It's one of the easiest stories to follow, and he makes it seem like it's challenging. There are 12-year-olds who watch this movie with absolutely no problem. Well,
Yeah, he needs to be told it, it seems like. He said, show don't tell. They do an excellent job of showing that these people are this family, certain members like Isabel and Luis, are just expected to to do these roles. Asked to get the piano during the wedding. She's like, oh, uneasy because her strength is fading, and you see her having trouble bringing the piano for that scene and the dining room scene. They just expect this stuff. Oh, and he wants it to be explained by the mother or show scenes. It's explicitly, as you said, a 12-year-old can understand it.
if I've already told you that this character is strong, I don't have to show you any more scenes of them being strong. It almost feels like it's more feasible for me to just tell you, just so I can get along with the rest of the story.
And they show her being strong plenty. And they
Mm-hmm.
show through her actions. They do a decent job. I wouldn't say the greatest job of conveying it through the animation, but it's pretty damn good how they convey emotions throughout the animation. Isabella sort of is just this perfect image until later on in the series. Then you see her
Mm-hmm.
display things before she even says that with the cactus thing. You don't even need words sometimes, but they do put in the work. You don't need to show everything.
Yeah.
And things don't need to be explicitly said for it to be understood. And actually,
Yeah.
since this is from the POV point of view of Marabella, she wouldn't see some of this stuff. It's
Hmm.
outside of her vision. And when
Yeah.
she sees it, it actually is supposed to be both a shock to the audience and to her, since we're seeing things from Marabella's point of view, even though it's not a first person point of view thing, but it's explicitly in the text. This is Marabella's story, primarily.
Hmm. Yeah, she has no idea that her relatives are suffering
Yeah.
because she's seeing what we saw. They're happy, they're doing fine.
And
She's not seeing.
and in reality, Marabella is in this sort of in the same position as the fathers, the males who come into the family. They don't have any magical powers, but they did know that the women they loved did, and they fill their role. I mean, I really like the dynamics of the husband. Her Marabella's father and her mother's husband sort of is accident prone. They say very early on, and basically her mother can heal through food, so that would definitely be that dynamic between them. If he was like to do things like he's chopping the woods and got uh, attacked by bees and he was all bloated up. Here, have some food, honey. You can understand that dynamic. Then you have the other married couple, I forget their names, the one who has the storm clouds or the sunshine. Her mood creates the weather. Her husband's just really supportive and sort of like when she's in a bad mood, she's looking for him. I'm guessing their dynamic, and they don't explicitly say these, but you understand from the scenes that they're on that the sort of older sisters, Bruno's two sisters, their husbands are a good fit for them just from everything being told. You don't need to be told this, but the husbands don't have special powers, but they also did choose, but that's a whole nother matter. That's
Yeah.
just a good example of how you show and don't tell the characterizations of these people. Very simply, it can be found throughout several places in the movie.
Yeah. All
Okay,
right.
want to continue?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
They are. You know what would be a lot of pressure in a family like that? Being the person who stands up to authority to do what's right. Being the person who tells Grandma off because it's kind of screwed up to make Isabella marry a man she doesn't want to, or to pick on Mirabelle for being magic disabled. Or maybe she could face the pressure of having to hold everyone together. Like,
Oh, I get it now. No one stand up enough. The grandma, people should stand. He wants a different story. This
Yeah.
this almost seems to be his case. He wants a different story. He wants someone to stand up to her. And Marabella does at the end. Marabella just tells her off. This family's trouble. I don't even know why he's bringing this up. Marabella, this is the story of Melabella getting the strength through this rather intriguing story of a mystery of her finding out, and she realizes it's the grandma's fault. Bruno left because he didn't fit the role. She's treated like shit. Marabella's just a beautiful trophy to get someone into the family and makes Louisa without concerned about Louisa's feelings. It's this is the story that they tell, and he's saying,
Yeah.
"I want them to do this. They did do this. You, mm. uh, but this is a primarily anime reviewer. I don't know why he was dumb enough to think he could just do this. I haven't watched any of his videos. I just found it by happenstance, and I just such a cosmically bad take. But maybe it was just thrown out there to be a bad take, or maybe he genuinely thinks this. I wonder about half these people who do criticism. I talked long enough. Anything you want to add?
I mean, like it's weird when someone, especially when it seems like they're very energetic, has like a huge complaint about something. They're not really considering, like, is it worth complaining about this in this way? Is there a counterpoint that could be levied against me that I should have to like really consider? And for him, according to the intro of the video, he has seen and he has heard the counterpoint, and he is reluctant to pay it any heed. In fact, I think he's just making the video just so he could double down on the criticism that he's getting. Like, oh, if people hate this, they're gonna hate this bad take, all right. Um, yeah, that's my take. That's my perspective. Like, we live in an outrage culture full of doom scrollers.
Yeah,
So,
it's not like he needs to have a respectable opinion. Like there's some
yeah.
there's like some reviewer I saw. I was getting into some of the people who made a lot of subscribers and got a lot of their popularity from being basically Doom Eternal fanboys.
Hmm.
And there's like two that I'm looking at, and they both have bad reputation. One's Griffin Gaming, like on live streams with and one's someone called Under the Mayo reviewing I could be getting these names wrong. Under the Mayo doing a review of Sekiro, basically complaining all the time. This is why I don't play these games. Then why are you doing a review? Basically, because people wanted him to do it, so he caved into the pressure, and it was just talking crap about it. But I understand, but backed it up with, I understand what people, but me personally, I don't like. There's quite a few people, like Joseph Anderson, also get this shit. Sorry to
Hmm.
go off on a tangent, but this is sort of why I'm making the current videos. A lot of the reviewers out there, they seem to be just putting thoughts out there. They respect it, but sometimes they have really bad takes, and people don't realize just because they agree with the bad takes on some things that they don't realize when they see through the bias on certain things. It's just bad all around. If someone does a really bad review and have really bad argument on one video, it means it's probably in other videos and other arguments. You just didn't notice it because you have a similar bias.
Yeah. Um, Sometimes you go against the grain and it's funny. Sometimes you go against the grain and you're irritating.
Can you think
You
of
find
any
that on there.
examples like that from what you've seen? You're probably not into this culture as much as me. I can name a couple of people like that. Video game donkeys one.
There's a bunch of people on TikTok that are like this. There's this one guy, Native Warrior. Um, he said, if you're only part Native American, you're not Native American, essentially, is what he said. Terrible take. Terrible take. Um,
So I'm like
Partly,
80% Native American and 20% something else. You're not Native American. What? I'm, I, if you're like over 50%, I guess he would also stand by that.
yeah. I mean, that was a take, you know. It's like, oh, I'm only part, you know?
Yeah, and it's TikTok, so it's just short little. I don't. I don't think I would respect anyone who did any reviews or any well thought out. I mean, that's one of those things for like that short story. Used baby shoes, never worn. That's the sort of content. It's good for comedy. It's good for really quick points. Like, I'm trying to think of some really quick point about the MCU. Like, why did Tony Stark give Spider-Man those glasses without any instruction book? It's really Tony Stark fault that Peter Parker almost killed his classmate. He didn't give any instructions with those glasses. Those glasses. Did you see the second new Spider-Man, Far From Home?
Yeah, yeah. He didn't give the glasses because he was dead.
No, but he got the glasses after Tony left. But
After Tony
someone
died, yeah.
gave Peter the glasses, and I'm like, those glasses of Tony's really should have come with the instruction manual.
Yeah.
So a
Like, who would
point
have.
like that would be good for TikTok. Really quick points.
Yeah, really quick. Yeah, really quick jabs.
Yep.
But, like, you got like an entire generation of people making quick jabs without a lot of nuance or a lot of defense for, like, here's my opinion, here's why. Um, You get a few people who have their whys, but this guy's why in this video is garbage. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're getting to the point. You're like, oh, so much stupidity. My brain's breaking down. I of course have more experience with it, so I'll give you a break and play it.
Like, maybe Dolores' side of the family is picking on Mirabel really hard for not having a power, and Mirabel's side of the family thinks that's pretty screwed up, and Louisa is trying to hold them both together. Just anything. Anything specific that's causing Louisa to feel all this pressure that she says she feels. But this part I do get. I get why people are so attracted to the character who always has to live up to expectations. The one who does what's best for the family no matter how much she doesn't want to. The one who suffers in silence, knowing that any cracks in her facade are
What? Playing from Ed, Ed, and Eddie? What's with the graphic? I
I
think
think
he went
trying
with
to
fruit
say,
baskets before. I can't be sure. It looked like
I
fruit
assume,
baskets.
yeah, I think he's trying to express that this is a two-dimensional wooden character. Um,
Okay, he's being a
and,
jackass, and he
yeah,
really okay.
mhm. What's crazy is he's got the point of the character, and yet he's complaining that he doesn't think that he got the point. Like the point of the character is everything that he just said. The character is strong physically, but emotionally she's not holding it together too well. She's falling apart. He gets it. If you get the message, there need be any more detail. If you got the 100% message, there need be more detail. There need not be more detail. You know?
Okay, well, I'm not even sure if he gets the message. It almost sounds like more writers all day, and there's a lot of critics who could do that.
Yeah.
Could they write something? Very few could. Even I'm starting to have my doubts that Critical Drinker could really do a lot of good things. I'm actually going. I went through his novel, but I'm doing a review of that novel, and there's some flaws with Critical Drinker's last book that I find a little funny. But
Yeah.
it's still a solid story. I'm just being very nitpicky in my in my criticisms. I'm writing up for the Critical Drinker, but at least he does writing. He's willing to put his stuff out there to be criticized.
Yeah. And
You,
he's got thick skin, so we
yeah,
don't have to worry about him getting all like crazy on Twitter, like, I'm leaving YouTube and I'm leaving social media. The pressure, it's too much. And when people grade you, it makes you feel bad. Like, well, yeah, you put yourself out there. Art's very vulnerable.
yep. I,
Expect it. There's downvotes for a reason. For years we've had downvotes on the internet. It's not new. You're putting yourself in a place where someone has the option to downvote you. You
yep.
have to go in expecting that. Otherwise, you're never making good art again. Like, there's a risk you take when you're releasing a movie that this movie might not make its money back because it'll probably be bad. You have to accept this risk. Everyone makes that risk.
Yeah,
And we still get good movies in spite of knowing the risk, you know?
absolutely. Ryan Johnson is a great example of someone who doesn't seem to. He just does his own thing.
Yeah.
And doesn't really learn from it. He thinks his style is great because he has some success. I'm sure he does take some of the criticism despite his exterior, but that's besides the point. I mean, some people, it's fine to criticize people, but when you come off like you know how to do this better than other writers, it just irks me the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he does seem to understand the point to a certain degree, but I think he's totally missing the point, explanation point. I swear his name is horrible, and I still just find the mask is just the funniest thing in the world.
Yeah. He
I
should
mean,
write short stories to learn what it's like to have to write something succinct, you
maybe he
know?
should go outside his freaking comfort zone. But let's
Yeah.
continue. I mean, as I said, just a plank, just like what the hell is he trying to say with the plank? And you explained it. He's pretty much just saying Luis is a two-dimensional character. Probably, if you wanted to read why the plank from Ed, Ed, and Eddie, I believe that's what that's from, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Start.
Are going to leave the family in utter disarray. The one who always has to be perfect. You know, Isabella. You have this character. The one who actually suffers in silence because she doesn't get a trendy bop about how.
Oh, Christ's sakes. Hmm.
It's a
This is
it's a
why he's
weak.
saying they're the same character, but no, they are two sides of a different coin.
Yeah. Like they have different struggles, different motivations, and their responses to Mirabelle and their interactions with Mirabelle are totally different. Um, they're just different characters.
Yeah,
Um,
and totally different struggles. Um,
yeah,
Luis has actually does work. Uh, Isabella has the opposite. She has to portray suffer in silence. I mean, yeah, you can't even say Luis suffers in silence. She just has a certain role, and Isabella has a different one. They're both sort of just doing their role because that's what makes them special. That's what gives them their place and the merit and the family.
yeah, yeah. All right.
How much she hates her life. But we do see Isabella suffer. We see her take on burdens for the sake of the family, unlike Louisa. Give Isabella Louisa's body, power, and screen time, and you might have a great character on your hands. As it is, you're
Oh, such a
Well,
dumb you.
because it's the so if you're known for being beautiful, and her whole song is about just being herself and the things that she makes. If you're looking at it without the music, on mute, right? She goes from making soft, pretty flowers to making cactuses and other types of plants. It's like her whole life, she's never been expected to do anything but create these beautiful flowers her whole life. And then she gets this opportunity where she feels free to make something that's really kind of offensive. And I think those are two different stories where the one character is very strong but doesn't want to show weakness. One is very beautiful and graceful and really doesn't want to show any sort of uh, difficulty. She doesn't want to show any sort of pushback in her actions, in her look. She wants to keep everything very beautiful and graceful when she's not 100% beautiful and graceful. Nobody is.
Nope,
And
it's a
for
projected image. It's basically what she's cultivated, what her value. Also, I got a chat. Do you think Enchanto is good or just this video is bad? Yes, to both. Enchanto is good to a certain extent. It's definitely one of the best Disney movies out made in, what would you say, Aaron? Last 10 years, at least the last 5 years. Turning Red. Can you even
yeah.
think? I mean, Moana. I can't say I personally love any of these movies, and Enchanto has sort of the subtext that older that speaks to me personally on a subjective level. I understand because it has a lot of cultural elements that seems to be underlining, and it's a good musical. And this video is just so god, it's just so bad. Sorry, I almost said G damn.
Like
I
I agree. I agree. Like the movie's great. Um, I love the vision. I love how they've done their 3D modeling in the movie. Um, I remember the my first time watching it. I was so surprised at how well paced it is. It it goes. It moves. Um, as far as like anything sort of disappointing about the movie, I can't think of anything. Um, this is easily better than Turning Red. Turning Red is decent, but man, this is much better, much better.
Yeah, last
Um,
movie I enjoyed this much was the original Wreck and Ralph. Well, of course, I'm also a gamer. Wreck and Ralph was pretty good. The sequel was dog shit, but I can't say I get into many Disney movies. This, Wreck-It Ralph, or was Wreck-It Ralph Pixar? Wreck-It
Wreck-It
Ralph,
Ralph is Disney and Pixar.
but it
The
sort of has a similar theme to this, the bad guy in a video game. This is about Marabella. It could be just a personal preference. I'm sure a lot of people feel like they can relate to this, and the pacing's done really well.
yeah,
It's just, I would have to do a whole critique breaking it down, but it is an excellent movie with, and this guy just doesn't understand almost anything about this genre. He doesn't seem to watch many movies, much less musicals. Ugh. Thought I'll just comment since we got a comment.
yeah.
I
Thanks for your question.
guess it's Wolf Son.
Hey,
Romulus Wolf Son, I believe. Thank you for the chat. But but yeah, let's start this up again. This is just a bad video overall. I mean, thankfully, I have my friend here because some of the points are just so ridiculous. I stutter for a bit.
You're splitting this story between two characters, and that means that each of them gets half the development they need. You know what this feels like to me? It feels like this film went through a lot of revisions. It feels like in an early draft of this script, Louisa had a lot.
Facts don't care about your feelings. Ben Shapiro, quote me. Really, he's just speculating. This is another point of the criticism that I hate when people just throw out speculation that is completely unprovable.
yeah,
And let's see
like
why he thinks it went under revisions. And his imagery. Is he trying to say they tried different forms with this image?
Lot
like
more explicit duty to the family. Or like Isabella and Louisa's characters were combined in early stages of writing and they split off in later edits. Then, as the story changed, they either already had this bop and song.
It's because he's a freaking idiot, is why he doesn't understand the different dynamics and different duality of how these two characters share a theme, but they are different sides of the coin. It's especially relevant since we want strong female leads nowadays, like the chick who got kicked off of The Mandalorian. Do you remember her
yeah,
name?
Gina Carano.
Yeah, I mean that was a very powerful woman who was a MMA fighter who got into acting, and she was really popular for her strength and still her being a female. Comparing Gina Carano to someone who's just known for being really pretty, like Jessica Simpson or um, a lot of the Jessica Alba. There was a lot of the Jessicas are just, there's at least a few of them that are really attractive. Jessica Alba, Jessica Simpson. I like. I had a thing for Jessica Alba when I was younger, but I loved Idle Hands. That movie was awesome. It was a completely horribly written movie, but it was just so absurd and funny. I That's a personal movie that I'll say was a horrible movie, but I loved it. Sometimes there's
Yeah,
movies like
yeah.
that.
Like Seth Green is like the hand of his own thing.
The zombies and the fat guy, the two zombies, pot smoking zombies. I feel an urge to eat you, but I'd rather smoke pot.
Oh God, yeah, that's a trash movie. But
But I love it.
yeah,
Okay, sometimes you like horribly written and done movies. Jessica
I
Alba.
like. Yeah, yeah, I can get with it. I like what do you call it? Hellboy.
Ah,
Not a lot of
Hellboy.
people like those movies, but like I like them.
Yeah,
I get what they're trying to do.
I wouldn't say they're well written, or even in some cases like Idle Hands or even Hellboy, they're excellently directed, but they're enjoyable. Badly
Yeah,
written, horrible plot holes, I'm sure. But yeah, freaking his theorizing about this, it just equates to nothing.
yeah,
And that's all I'll say on it. It's just stupidity at the highest level of I doubt he'll have any back, and he's just like, I feel this way, so it must be true. So that's bad. No,
Yeah.
they're flip side. They serve very similar but different purposes. One that, yeah, went over it. I probably
Like
repeat myself too much on these live streams.
like if you cut out the scenes with her and her sister, or if you cut out more of the family and make it more about Mirabelle, her grandmother, um, and her cousin, you're still going to include at least one, two, three, four more characters because both characters have two parents between them and grandma.
Yeah,
So,
he just has a baseline pop. He has a hypothesis that there's too many characters, which he doesn't even establish that being a bad thing. He thinks it's a bad thing. He did not establish that well enough. There being a lot of characters, and they don't develop them enough. But that's rather crappy since he really doesn't know how to deal with multiple characters in a limited amount of time. Short story writing will teach you the minimalism. Short stories can sometimes be really good, even though they're short, for a certain reason. Oh,
all right, you can play the video. I'm just going to be on mute for a bit.
okay.
And they felt compelled to use it, or they didn't check to make sure that it still made sense with the new script. And it feels this way with a lot of things. Notably, Bruno, who was, I have heard, intended in early drafts to be a villain, which whether that
Yeah, this is completely and utterly stupid. And again, he's just going off of what he's heard about the story. Unsubstantiated rumor. We'll see where he goes with it. Another stupid point that I think I got to.
that's true or not would make a whole lot of sense. We don't talk about Bruno is the one song in the film that really works. But the problem with Bruno's character is that everyone else is an idiot. These people clearly understand how Bruno's power works. Not only do they talk about it in explicit
Yes, this is so ridiculously stupid. I don't even know where to start. Everyone is stupid? No, it's just about the culture of his power only tells people what they want to hear, or it's about negative bias reinforcement. This is also done in a foregone error where witchcraft was sort of looked down on, foretelling. He doesn't really tell. No one wants to get into the nitty gritty details. He's the black sheep because he really has no power. He doesn't. They don't really take advantage of his foresight to make. Yeah, family do seem to demonize him for his powers, and it's really a struggle and a tragedy of the family. To say they're stupid is sort of weird.
I mean, his only curse is the fact that he tells people what's going to happen and it's inevitable, right? But the things that he tells people, according to the song, gets more and more ridiculous because he's like, there's going to be a storm coming. Instead of preparing for the storm, they make themselves victims to the storm. And it's like, you made the storm happen. It's like, no, I just told you it was coming. You could have prepared for this, right?
And it
There were
does.
two realities that you live in, one where everything's bad because of the storm, or B, where you prepared and everything was great. Then there's the other guy who I lost all my hair. Well, at least he got a wig. He told me my fishes would die. Well, you should have known that things die, so you should hold on to their life lightly and treasure it while you have it. Or the guy who's like, he told me I'd get a gut, and I got a gut. Well, you should have went to the gym. There's nothing.
Well,
There was no. Yeah.
it's about accepting this as a fact and not doing any. It's just assuming there are things that can be changed, and that's told in the story. People believe he can. Yeah, they do give the impression his predictions cause these things to happen, but it's
Mhm.
because they assume these magical powers change reality. No, they sort of bend reality. People, uh, the wedding that got ruined could have been moved to a different day in reality. The guy could have taken precautions to stop his fishes from dying. Could have had them checked. Well, maybe a fish doctor. Maybe that couldn't have been helped if they were like in a bad pond. But in the modern era, if there was a seat, your fishes are going to die. You would take your fishes to a vet. You would check the water. Would have been impossible in the setting here, but
Yeah,
and the very end of the story, people just accept his predictions, and even Marabella questioned that status quo that got him ostracized from the family, and being like, okay, this is your power. Why don't you take it to the next step? I mean, yeah, he has a point. Everyone's sort of stupid about this, but it actually makes sense in this cultural context, the superstitious nature, especially when these miracle powers front facing Bruno's power does not seem too useful to people who expect things to be done for them. I think it's a really good cultural commentating that Bruno tells the truth and people berates him for him. Like there's plenty of people out there in the media who try to tell the truth and they're sort of demonized for trying to look at the truth. I mean,
yeah, and
a
I
lot of those commentators aren't that are have bias and certain biases that might affect the truth. But yeah, I mean
I
the
like
people.
I see the idea in his character as being sort of the jokester, the clown, where like usually the clown character tells the truth that no one's willing to hear. But he tells it in a way that's absorbed, that people can absorb. Except with Bruno, people have absorbed what he has to say, and they took it the wrong way. Um, Even his vision about like Mirabelle, if you're looking at it for like what it is, you look at it one way, the house is fully repaired. You look at another way, the house is destroyed. But at the center of it all is Mirabelle. At the exact center of the frame, it's Mirabelle. And like they could have gone totally different directions, but what they ended up doing was they ignored everything about his prediction, including most criminally, they ignored Mirabelle and how important she is to the family and the future of that family. Um, and that's what caused it to come true. And it's like they're ignoring every character here ignores what's going on, what's deeper. Um, and I think what's great about the movie is like these characters have to confront that if they want to keep the family going. Um,
Yes,
yeah, yeah,
uncomfortable facts about the reality of the world. We could go
yeah,
on and on about our personal opinions of what that is. I'm sure both me and you have a lot of commentation that could apply to the real world. I try to keep this in
yeah,
fictional terms
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because, yeah, I mean, he does have a point that everyone's stupid about it, but it's understandable in the context of the story why people are stupid about it, given the setting. And he just dismissed the setting. This is also probably what was setting in the early 20th century or late 19th century. I
Probably because like grandma has memories of conquistadors,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
they
they don't
don't tell him.
explicitly say what they are, but yeah, you get the feeling that they're sort of. So it might have been the 19th century.
Yeah, yeah, or yeah, just any sort of like a bunch of dudes on horses, because no one's gonna come on a horse in like the '80s, you know.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
probably,
it probably is the 19th century, but I didn't research too much into it. But yeah, more superstitious, and they don't see the inherent value of it. Hmm. Let's continue with this point. Ugh.
Terms that make it clear that
Oh
they
wow.
understand how it works, he can bring other people into his visions and just show them. He sees what's going to happen in the future. He doesn't make it happen. He doesn't curse people. He's just a normal, half-deranged oracle living in his sand cave. So why do these people treat him like a black cat spilling salt under a broken ladder? Why does he have to flee to the walls? He didn't do anything wrong. Yet even Mirabelle ends this song by saying she never should have brought up
Oh, this is such a horrible point. Marabella is not agreeing with them. She just sort of falls into the same trap. Uncomfortable truth. She finds out that a prediction about her birth. It's, this
Oh yeah.
guy is taking things so literally. When she says that at the end, she comes across the fact that she's connected to what's happening, and it's a crisis in her mind. So after the song, when she says it, I mean, I agree with his points that for the most part that it is stupid. He doesn't cause the curses. We were just talking about that. But the
Yeah.
fact he doesn't get how that relates to the story is rather dumb in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. He's not seeing what the point is about them not liking him. He's telling them the truth and they're not taking it well. It's like when you tell someone, hey girl, you're fat. She does not want to hear that. People actually hate when you tell them they're fat and they should go to the gym.
Oh, what
They hate
about
it.
body positivity movement? That's all about ignoring reality. Okay. I'm not
Yeah,
exactly a skinny spring chicken, but I know if I get too eat crappy, get too fat, it's going to affect my health. It's not something that I want to happen. You shouldn't accept it.
yeah. You gotta recognize like these are the facts, but people don't like it. Or if I told everyone like, hey, if you guys want a cleaner environment, you gotta need if you want these jobs to come back to America, these prices are gonna go way sky high to the point where no one in America can afford anything that's made in America. Oh, you don't like that? All right, cool. We only did ourselves in by putting these companies in other countries where they can be paid pennies to make these products. We did this to ourselves. Um, like there are some hard truths to take, like, oh, we do care about the environment when it comes to cars, but we're
But we
not
need
willing.
cars. We need
Yeah, yeah,
cars,
we need.
and we
Yeah,
century.
yeah,
So that makes not condensators, I guess, but definitely some bad people on horses chasing them out originally. The Civil
yeah.
War, that whole Columbia era, maybe more the drug trade is what this is talking about.
Maybe, maybe,
Those
but
gangsters are they're rather brutal with the drug trade, and it's hard to get around. And this family sort of protects them to this community to a certain extent.
probably, probably.
Well, that's the get general impression I get, but yeah. Still,
And even then, you
Bruno.
don't
God.
need that. Oh, sorry.
no, continue.
But even then, you don't need that much detail to know, like, well, why is Grandpa not around? Because these three dudes, shadowy dudes, illuminated from behind, came on their horses. Something bad happened, and now Grandpa's gone. Fill in the blanks yourself. Fill it in yourself. You already know what happened. It didn't go well for Grandpa, long story short, you know?
Absolutely. The miracle protected them. Everyone gathered around this family. She had three children with magical powers. They built on that. They built a community around this family of this miracle family. And there's problems that start with that. They get big, important heads. They think they need to protect the community. They fill roles.
Yeah,
There's so many different ways you can say this could apply. It's not even just in this certain scenario. This could be done in any culture. This being done in that certain culture is just an interesting look at it. That's
yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
I keep I
what a
my mouth
bop.
someplace
Again,
else.
there's a lot of good in this idea. The Cassandra story is classic. It just feels like it got lost in revisions. And now, my gentle people, if I may have your attention.
See, he's saying it feels like it's lost in revisions, but he doesn't explain why he feels like it is. Did you?
Yeah.
Maybe he's gonna explain this. I don't know how he can back up this claim.
Attention for a moment,
These
I'd like to
shows.
go over some quick nitpicky things that aren't really that important, but they bother me. Why
Oh, nitpicky things now, not the just wrong readings of the story. Let's see his actual nitpicks. And
does Mirabelle not have a room? She has no magic, and therefore she has to live in the baby room for babies her entire life? Why
do they say that in the story? I rewatched it, and she seems to have a room.
She's in the nursery.
Okay, that's
Yeah, it's weird.
yeah, it's a nitpick.
can't Casita just give her a normal room? It doesn't have to be a fancy magic room. Just a nice bed, a few books, maybe a TV. Bruno gets a room. You think he hauled all this furniture through his little hole behind the painting and past all these crossbeams and pit traps? No, Casita gave him his little wall hovel to stay in. But Mirabelle? Nope. You get to stay in the little baby nursery room, you little nursery baby.
He's making assumptions. I don't think you can automatically say that correct. A lot of assumptions being made here. Just
You know what I go on?
no, that's all I was saying is he's making a lot of assumptions and believing them to be true. This is just his
Yeah,
nitpick section, so I'm nitpicking his nitpicks.
yeah. Like I think I, not I think I know. So one of the things that's really irritating about YouTube movie critics is the cinema sins effect, where you're expecting everything to follow a very logical pattern. Um, there's only so much logic that goes into a fantasy story. There's only so much logic that goes into most stories. The problem with most film is you're making leaps of logic just to keep the plot going most of the time. Even the grittiest, realistic, hardcore crime film has scenes that, oh, well, that wouldn't happen in real life. Well, because of the story I'm telling, it did.
Yeah, you
It's
have to accept
necessary.
at least early story plot contrivances. Like I have a problem. I have a realistic problem with actually Death Note, which I've argued with people on.
Mhm.
I wouldn't change much, just sped things along. Light sort of acted like a complete idiot when he tried to kill L the first time he popped up, and that basically since they just wanted to get the battle between L and Light going as quickly as possible. But in reality, given L, I mean, given Light and L, he could have made a whole arc about a side plot about L planning out how to find Kira, and they could have made that a whole side plot in the manga.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
eventually, one of L's plans would have led him to who Kira is. But it was a
yeah.
plot contrivance that annoys me. That just the first time L pulled off, tried to, maybe he could have tried other plans that we don't know about, but without going to L's side and getting sort of the nitty gritty plans that he planned out. But yeah, you need plot contrivance to get a story started sometimes. And
Yeah.
all the plot contrivance sort of started before the movie in this. It started at Isabella's birth and her not getting her power. But it's also a fantasy, so it's way more forgivable. As you were saying, I was just talking about, you were talking about in more gritty things, you're going to have scenarios that set up. It's like the critical drinkers, Will Jordan. He has several plot contrivance in the beginning of his story that really the book wouldn't work without it. I bring that up in what I've written about it so far, but everything it is set up correctly and it does make sense. But you sometimes to enjoy a story, it's still a good book,
Mhm.
but still sometimes you got to have it either for emotional weight, which he does, or for maximum input. Like why does the bomb timer always wait until the last few seconds to be diffused?
Yeah.
Or sort of the tension. You just accept this in reality. In reality, it should have been like 30 minutes, but it's always like 2 or 1 second before the bomb is defused in those sort of movies.
Every time, yeah, you're
Yeah,
absolutely
I think
right.
Last Action Hero made fun of that. They like to like defuse the bomb. Like the timer's still going. The timer's still going. What did I do it wrong? Oh, yeah, movies like this it doesn't really stop until like the last second.
Yeah, like there are some things that really do crank up the tension, and you
As
just kind of
viewers, we
live
got to
with it.
understand in the format that we're reading, the audience that people are writing for, you got to understand this is written for a certain audience, and you'll accept some contrivances for the sake of certain things, but there's some things that just break it, especially in certain series where rules are established already.
Yeah,
This is a
like
standalone, so.
yeah, like can you imagine being one of those kids being told stories about like Greek heroes and villains, being like wondering like how can a woman with snakes in her hair eat enough food so that she doesn't starve? That's a lot of mouths to feed. How does she do it? And if she
Yeah.
turns people into stone, then what is she eating? Rock? Does she need people to turn into stone for them to be rocks around? Like she can just eat all the rocks outside. Like the nitpickiness of just like you're not getting what's great about this story. Um, Sometimes there's suspension of disbelief, but I'm not asking anyone to suspend their disbelief for Encanto. You really don't have to, but there's to see the story for what it is trying to convey. And if you have arguments against how well it is, man, oh man, he's just grasping at straws.
I mean, this is the
Um,
nitpicky section, so let us nitpick on his video also. I try to do a
true.
little nitpicky, but yeah, absolutely. He's grasping for straws at every point. This nitpicky section is
Yeah.
even more grasping at straws. This is grasping at little flakes of dust.
All right.
Okay.
Can Dolores hear Bruno in the walls? Because either answer to that question is ridiculous. If she can't, yes, she can. If she legitimately believes what she says about the rats talking in the walls, then she is dumber than a steering wheel on a roller coaster. And if she did know, then we're just supposed to believe she kept that a secret for however many years? That she knew her crazy and allegedly evil rat uncle was living in the walls and she just kept that to herself? This
What? Rat Uncle? He's making him out to be a villain. Is there any. Can you
The
help me
vi-
out, Aaron, here? I mean, I don't get an impression why she would, even if she knew, yeah, she can't keep a certain thing secret that is established in the story. So he is bringing up a point. I mean, certain people do know he's down there, like the little child.
like even if she did snitch, here's how it would go. Hey, I can hear Bruno. We don't talk about Bruno. We know where he's at. He
Very good
belongs
point.
there.
Them
Like
not talking about it. I mean, maybe she can't keep her mouth shut, but except for no one talks about Bruno.
the same reason Bruno lives in the walls, it's the same reason Louisa is strong. It is a powerful metaphor, like something that's obvious. It should be right in front of everyone. What's wrong with this? But they are trying to deny it. Like they hate Bruno so much that they let him live in the walls so that when people come over, they don't even see him.
Yeah.
Like Mary, what is it? Maribel didn't even really know too much about him, and that's her uncle. They, this is and like this is the trauma, this is the fear that they have when it comes with Bruno, because it's like Bruno is the only character in that family who kind of was misunderstood, and because of that misunderstanding, he's been allowed to live in the walls. What kind of a monster lets their own son live in the walls of the house, never to interact with the rest of the family?
Well, the
It's
grandmother doesn't know about that. That's clear. But I'm sure that some of the other children have a hint about it or
yeah,
understand it in theory that he's living there. Like she probably does know, but him framing her is explanation point, framing Bruno as her thinking Bruno's evil, I think is a little weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's why I paused it there to comment on that. I mean, yeah, there is a certain conflict. She might know about it, but yeah, no one talks. They don't talk about Bruno. So even if she does and she can't keep a secret, there's a certain culture. There's actually an anime called Another where they have a tradition where they pick one student to completely ignore in the classroom for superstitious reasons that turn out to actually have a legitimate reason behind it. Superstition doesn't matter how against logic is. Sometimes superstition overwrites logic. And it definitely, that we don't talk about Bruno, definitely establishes that sort of mentality among the family that probably even extends to the village as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
Yeah.
see, let's see more of his nitpicks. They are nitpicky and sort of annoying, but that's the whole video.
This being the same person who couldn't keep her mouth shut about her family's magic battery running drive for one very important dinner? This woman kept that a secret? And speaking of that dinner, holy crap, what a mess of a scene. First of all, same criticism I just made, can none of these people keep their dang mouths shut for 10 minutes? Dolores, whatever, she's a gossip, that's an established character trait, but Felix? Peppa? These people just get wind of a rumor that the very thing securing their family's position of unrivaled natural and political supremacy is dying, and they've just gotta tell someone?
What the? He seems to have some sort of misunderstanding about the family in general. I mean, I don't understand why he's jumping to this conclusion. I mean, if people are talking about it, they don't know about it, so they would be talking about it to be like, "Is that true?" I mean,
Yeah.
it is really important. Not it's the grandma who cares about looking strong in front of other people. He's just
Yeah.
imposing that certain mentality, which really isn't found
Yeah.
in the story. They try to keep it a secret, but it's really obvious. It comes to it. Yeah, the scene is a mess, and it's a purposeful mess.
Yeah. You have these sort of scenes all the time in film where there's this big revelation, things go out of control, and then boom, it's all revealed. All the cards on the table, the mess. Uh, your failure is complete now. Now what? You know? Because like, where would the movie be if nobody knew what Maribel knew? She'd be doing a super private investigation. But now that everybody knows about what just happened, is uh, they see her quite negatively. They see her as someone who's trying to become more like Bruno, someone who's so jealous at the beginning of the movie of everyone else getting attention that she tries to call attention to herself by saying something that she sees something that nobody else sees. And then she has a flare up during a proposal and it goes so sideways. It just makes her look even worse. So now she's super ostracized from the rest of her family. The only person she could depend on is Bruno, and boom. Like it's that simple, okay? We really want to bring this character low, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a sort of apex of the situation. It's bringing Maribella to a point where she needs to find this out. She needs to. She found Bruno's um, prophecy, and she doesn't know what to do. She's afraid, but she knows she has to do something. But she's clueless until she gets put in this position, and things are falling apart. And it's not Maribel's fault. In reality, you see Louisa losing her strength, worried about her strength because the events are happening. They have to
Mm-hmm.
deal with it. It's a crazy scene. I will agree. It is a mess of a scene, but it's like organized chaos. It works within that.
Yeah. And there are tons of families where it's more than just being pressured to keep a certain facade. There are some families where you do not broach the subject of this failure in the family. It's not your place. Like, well, I think she's raising her kid to be a criminal. It's not your place to talk about that. This is just a her thing. But my cousin is my family, and I'm concerned about his well-being, and I think we should address that. Oh, we can't talk about that, so it gets swept under the rug. Well, your aunt and uncle, your aunt is having an affair. Oh, can we discuss that somehow? Well, that's really not classy to discuss a private matter with the whole group, even though it will affect all of us eventually. Um,
That
Directly dealing with these sorts of things. But when it comes to politics, oh yeah, let's put all of our dirty laundry out in the open. Yes, we're a terrible country, blah blah blah. It's easy to talk about the macro, but the micro, we don't want to broach the subject because we don't want to ruffle any feathers, even though those feathers need to be ruffled.
yeah, this is a cock up cascade or the domino effect. Things,
Yeah,
one thing goes wrong, another thing wrong, and it just accelerates into a mess. And it definitely fits into it definitely breaks the illusion of this perfect family. The fact that explanation point here thinks that things don't, that the boiling point with this sort of thing, the perfectly perfectly logical, and isn't the gossip their daughter? So, and they're not as act, they're the more talkative ones. Marabella's father and mother are the more reserved ones, but they probably have problems with their daughter sort of not being special. There's hints that their parents understand the pain, but they don't feel like they can speak out. That I believe that is shown in the movie, not directly, but if you read the text, if you're competent enough to read the text, you can see that between the lines of how they treat her. They don't want to go against the mother, but they do understand their daughter's position. They
yeah, yeah. We're only halfway through this video.
yeah.
Mercy me.
Well, sorry if I'm keeping you. If you need to jump out, I
No, no, no,
I'm
no, no,
really
no. This is fine.
I was sort of inspired by Mulder and EFAP. I don't want to do the same thing as him because I don't have the same exact opinions, and I just he really has a really limited scope. But I believe his process for his podcast is a really effective one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like the only thing that grates me about this video in particular is his points are his points are bad, and he should feel bad. Um, his
It's stupid. I don't understand why this family who's like the dictators of this whole community would show any weaknesses. They're just authoritarian or some bullshit like that. I mean, it's
yeah,
just such a simple minded view of something he understands nothing about culturally, media wise. He really seems out of his depth with this. I, uh,
yeah. I think if I were making a movie for a child, I would make it as obvious as possible what I'm trying to communicate to the child. Um, this
Yeah, it
movie
also
is
has a comical flair to it, a comical, almost sitcom feel to it with the family dynamics. That this
yeah,
sort of scene works really well. He's treating it like it's logical. No, as you
I
said,
mean,
suspension of disbelief. His suspension of disbelief was shattered right from the first song. Him not understanding that just is a cock up cascade. Everything's just not going to make even more sense. Yeah, the people are stupid for not thinking Bruno, but you're not putting yourself, you're not understanding the culture or contents. I already went over that. If it just one misunderstanding leads to two more and three more, it's a cock up cast. This video, this dinner scene sort of reminds me of this video. It says a whole bunch of stupid shit. he wants to be respected as a critic, and he makes this sort of crappy ass video. You should see some of the comments. I mean, even the comment section, which I assume are subscribers, disagree with him.
Yeah.
Okay. We might get through this video in the next. We haven't been on too long.
Also, why do they believe her? They don't believe Mirabelle. Mirabelle said the exact same thing at Antonio's magic bar mitzvah, and everyone was just like, silly, non-magical, unimportant wretch of a girl.
Everything starts falling apart in this scene. They are sort of forced to confront with this uncomfortable reality. You see
Yeah.
Louisa struggling to bring in, and there's the weather mother who's going off.
Like, and the father isn't lackadaisical with his like, like covering it up. He is absolutely terrified when he sees what she has. The minute he sees the green glow, he stops everything. It's like he stops functioning. And his first move is, I need to hide this.
Yep.
And we're never going to talk about this, and nobody needs to know about this.
And Bruno's
You know?
prophecy gets put together at this dinner, and slid coincidentally, yeah, it is really weirdly set up where it gets slid over to the grandmother at the climax of the scene. It's sort of hard to deny. This was the prophecy that Bruno broke, so no one would be have bias against Mirabella. I mean, the fact that he's not understanding why this gets believed in the end makes me think he didn't watch this scene.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't believe Mirabella, but by the end of it, they believe. They also sort of brush it off after this, and
Yeah.
such a mess all around. He might. I
The miracle can't die. Oh, look, grandmother's brought us a cake. Not to mention that she got this information by overhearing the very person that these people didn't believe to begin with. And then there are these little. Are these raccoons? What are.
what person didn't? Mirabella or Bruno's prophecy? They believe Bruno's prophecy. I'm wondering if I'm misunderstanding what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He's not making it very clear why anyone believes during the scene. I'm just gonna play it. Okay. Stupid.
Yeah. We've been tearing them apart. Sorry.
Sorry. There's so much stupidity. I've been actually pausing less than I wanted to. I'll try to keep it going.
Are these small Colombian vermin? What did Antonio say to these creatures? Why do they have such a vendetta against this family that they're going out of their way to put the pieces of this vision together on a platter so that it can be shoved in front of Abuela's face at an opportune moment? Or do they just like puzzles? Is this a Colombian thing? Does Colombia have puzzle squirrels? I hate this scene. But
like, this is just so stupid. You have to have a certain suspension of disbelief. That's all.
Who sees like broken pieces. Let's be logical. If he has the ability to put it all together and fix it, he's not thinking about the fact that, oh yeah, if I put this together, I'm gonna set off an atomic bomb in my family. Like whatever. And for the kids for the animals to have like a vendetta against Abuela, that's a stretch. Because
yeah, it's just a coincidence. It is a plot contrivance that it ended up right in front of her, but them putting together the puzzle, perfectly logical.
Because he's not questioning the fact that the rats work for Bruno, who does not communicate with animals.
No, not Bruno. It's the kid who can communicate, the newly Christian one. I forget his name, the youngest.
No. Bruno actually has, like, throughout the whole movie, like, all you see are rats that are around him for the most part. They come to him. He's got rats in his room, and like,
yeah, but I don't think those are the creatures putting together the puzzle. I think that's the youngest child who's putting together the puzzle. He sees shiny puzzle pieces. He gets his animals to sort of put it together.
Yeah. My point is, when it comes to the animals having a mind of their own, it is a Disney movie where these animals do seem to have a mind of their own. We have full on animals that are almost like they're waiting for the youngest one to get his power to see if they can communicate with him.
Yep.
To
Maybe they
him,
wanted to show
from
it off to
nowhere.
him, like shiny thing. Also, raccoons with shiny things. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a certain level of disbelief that you have to let yourself go. I can understand why that could bother a more critically minded person, but
yeah,
also, you definitely the suspension of disbelief in this scene with the chaos. It's workable. It's not
yeah,
great. It's not It doesn't work on a logical basis, but you have to throw certain rules, but it
yeah,
does work. And there is
yeah,
a I will admit the fact that it gets put together by these creatures and ends up in front of the grandmother, complete plot contrivance, but it's one that's perfectly fine.
yeah.
Okay, but fine.
Fine, that's a plot contrivance, and it's delightfully chaotic. I'll let it slide. What I cannot let slide is this woman. Specifically, her being portrayed as some kind of manipulator, abuser, or otherwise unfit grandparent. Is that what she was intended to be? The internet sure makes it seem so.
Really, his impression is based off of the internet, not of what's in the story. She's had a hard life. She's felt that she's had to protect this community. She has the family with the miracles. She has to be the strong one, the strong, independent woman with the strong family that needs to grow and propagate. And she's fearful because Marabella, Bruno was her first sort of fearful thing. She probably had reservations about it. It was just easier to focus on the two children who had powers. Then come along the grandchildren, one super strong who could help move, do impossible feats with her strength, another one who could make plants and just was so beautiful. It, making plants, it really was a waste of uh, Isabella's power in this sort of community just to make flowers. You could have so many.
Who's got that power? Is if you start making more money for the community, you're inviting a lot of outsiders who might get interested in what you have to provide.
I mean,
Especially, hmm?
I'm sure they had the farming community already settled. You had the woman who could create weather, so they wouldn't have to worry about drought. So maybe they had that already covered. They already had
but
the covered, so they just thought the plant creator, beautiful trophy girl.
but if you have like yeah, we're thinking too far deep into this. Because like, I mean, honestly, on a tangent, if you have a daughter who can make rain, yeah, the process of making the crops grow is still up to the farmer, which means they're still employed.
Yep.
If you have a daughter who by herself could make an entire crop grow in a day, the farmer's out of business. But again, we're suspending disbelief.
Yeah.
Uh, like it's every Dungeons and Dragons game. Like if you have dragons who want gold, why would you trade in gold? You're just asking for a dragon attack. Why don't you trade in silver? Wouldn't that make more sense? Just so you wouldn't have to guard your town, or maybe even barter more. If you have people who have wizards who have the ability to stop time, why do you have kings with no abilities? Wouldn't it be better to just have like a wizard be the leader because then he could stop any threat because he can counterspell a stop time spell? Stuff like that. Like if you really look into it, yes, I can see where, the suspension of disbelief could be lifted. But if you're looking at it for what is the story trying to communicate, then you're getting something else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and he's getting
Um,
the wrong. He's definitely mischaracterizing the mother because
yeah,
I mean the
terribly. He doesn't,
grandmother. This is just a complete misreading of her in general. I don't know.
and and in his defense, he is saying that he's getting this idea of the grandma because of the internet, not because he sees this. It's because the internet is reinforcing this idea. And I agree with him. And this is one of the reasons why I didn't like the movie was because of the internet's reaction to it, which was terrible. Um, like they were like, "Oh, she's a narcissist," blah blah blah. Like, all right, we're throwing that word around. Uh,
Oh, absolutely. absolutely. But basing your image of a movie off of what the freaking internet says, this guy's just a freaking sheep or something. He can't judge the medium on his own. That's what you need to do as a critic. There's a
True.
certain level of connectiveness. I've been railing against a lot of people making un unreasonable comparison to other series that have negative reputations on the internet. There's this side who freaking hypes up and overblows other characters. Internet's just a crazy place. Do not when dealing with criticism, don't do it based on what idiots on the internet think about characters. If you're a media critic and you want to pride yourself, take a look at it in a vacuum, then see how it relates to other things.
Yeah. And if you're affected by our opinion, dear listener, don't, because we are also part of the idiots category. Like,
Absolutely. We have our opinions. We are well educated. I mean, both of us went to the same college, right, man?
yeah,
I
Harvard.
we wish. I won't bring up the college, but yeah, you need to learn more stuff. It's perfectly fine to learn things off the internet, but not just from Reddit or Wikipedia. The critical process of some people is just downright idiotic. That's all I'll say on that.
He seems like a young man. Uh, a lot of these opinions seem like a young man's opinion.
Yeah, probably.
Good.
Probably a
Play
young
the.
man too influenced by what people say about media.
Yeah,
But that's
yeah.
not backed up in the story at all. Abuela Madrigal is a strong matriarch. She does have her ideas about how a family should be run and how to address the needs of her weird family in particular, and sometimes those ideas run counter to what we would consider good. But the thing is, nobody ever tells Abuela that she's doing things that are not good for the family, if they even believe that she is. From the outside, the biggest misstep that I see Abuela taking is setting up an arranged marriage for Isabella. That's pretty, by today's standards, but from her perspective, it's nothing more than finding a nice, suitable, handsome, and well-connected man for her oldest granddaughter. She thinks that she is doing a good thing for her family at large and for
Okay, he seems to understand some of this stuff. I really don't understand where his criticism comes from, except for the way the internet's characterizing her, which I will agree with.
Yeah. But I worry that he's not seeing her shortcomings,
Okay.
which is not being attentive to the people that she has to care for, which is her immediate. For me, if you bought me a new computer, I would propose to you, you know? But like,
Vice versa.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I know if there was a role open in a Star Wars movie and I could get you in, you'd probably say yes.
No
Because
matter
having
how
idea.
bad the writing was, I would at least like it might have been a crappy Star Wars Disney movie, but I was in a Star Wars movie. Fuck it.
We're doing an Ewok movie. Are you in? Um,
As long as you give me a credit.
like,
Okay. I was in
see,
Star Wars. My IMDb page has Star Wars in it. Fuck you. That was a terrible Ewok movie. I don't care. I was in it.
yes, you weren't in it, and you would have wanted it. But like, there's a way to give good gifts. Um, an arranged marriage is not necessarily a bad thing, and it's not a bad. It's more of a bad thing in the eyes of Americans, or particularly most people in the West.
I think
In
he's getting to that point.
Yeah, yeah, he says in modern times, but it's like, not necessarily. They still go on. You can still have an arranged marriage in America. It's not legal. Um, and you still get love out of some of those marriages. Um, you still get divorce in, arranged marriages too.
You also get
I
divorces in completely consensual, we both love each other marriages.
Yeah,
Okay.
the thing that makes Abuela terrible is the fact that she doesn't really know her kids, her grandkids either.
Yep.
Um,
She just sees
yeah,
them as almost tools in somewhat regards. Not really. It's a hard sort of mesh.
Yeah,
She doesn't
in
really
order,
see them. She
yeah,
wants what's best for them, and she thinks what she thinks is best for them, and she's wrong, which is
yeah,
clearly stated in the movie.
yeah.
Hmm. Let's see his point about her. I just want to stop it for that point.
For Isabella specifically. And here's the kicker, nobody ever challenges that. Nobody says, hey, Grandma, maybe don't insert yourself directly into Isabella's bedroom, okay?
See, he has a problem with no one confronts her. He realizes her short front. He has a problem with the arranged marriage. This is basically the bulk of. He wants it to be a different story.
Yeah, this culture, I don't understand. There's a lot of cultures or there's a lot of families where you don't tell the adult figure in the room what's what. Even like if you're a kid, you're not going to tell your grandma, hey, you're wrong. Even if you are right, it's not something you're going to get away with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Most of the time, it never
Mirabella
works.
is basically forced to do that. She was
Yeah.
basically got to just a boiling point where she does this outrageous act, and she's ashamed of it later on, as it's shown.
Like,
Despite her being right, it still is a problem.
yeah. Like, even when she wants to bring up her brother, like, the fathers don't seem to be bothered by it. But man, oh man, her aunt did not like talking about like Bruno. She was very like immediately triggered by even the thought of talking about him. There's a situation whereas the niece, you have to consider like I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I understand this is probably a family faux pas, and I won't go any further. You just don't do that. It seems right, but doing the right thing has its consequences. Like, oh yeah, criminality is terrible. We should stop criminals.
Yep,
Yes, we
it
should.
seems like
But
obvious, but how do you
yeah,
do
but
it? I mean, in this culture, I mean, they shame people for just arresting criminals who don't steal enough. Oh, they didn't steal that much. You shouldn't get a police officer to arrest them. They might die. What the
or or
hell?
or even or even the idea of being a witness. Like if I'm a witness to a crime, I'm in danger. Because what happens is these criminals will find out who I am and they will kill me or they'll do anything to get leverage so that I won't testify against them.
Yep.
Like the like so many criminals are just taken into another county, just the next county over, and they call that witness protection. It's not far enough. Like you gotta and like some of these cats in witness protection don't even know how fragile they are. But the thing is, man, like testifying against criminals, especially a criminal organization, you're one man sent against a pack of wolves. You are not being protected because all it takes is a little bit of money to turn anyone's eyes the other way. Like you're in danger. Not everybody's a good person. A lot of people are really out for themselves. So when you're
Yeah, and
dealing with
some people might be bribed in the police force. They don't get that paid, cops. You find the one weak link to give up your location, and yeah, you're screwed. You're dead. You're in the ground.
yeah, so you pick your battles of doing the right thing. You know.
Yep. And sometimes the right thing doesn't seem obvious because of the culture we're raised in. It's hard to
Yes.
tell what's right and wrong. Culture will tell you a lot of things about what's right and wrong. Most people don't think about it. They just go with what people think. I think he's sort of following this pattern. Why doesn't anyone do that? This woman obviously needs to be confronted about her pragmatic, but they've been a successful family up to this point. No one knows it. No one, they're blissfully ignorant in certain ways.
Yeah.
And it's a good message to tell children. It takes the whole story to get to this point. I really don't know what its criticism. This is what Marabella does in the end. I mean, they don't do it over. Hey, Grandma, maybe don't insert. This is just a moralistic take on this. He doesn't like this arranged marriage. He understands it, but he doesn't like it. I mean, maybe brings up more, but despite him qualifying this, like, I understand, but he acts like he doesn't. It's sort of like double speak almost, this video. A lot of double speak. Music is subjective, but that first song is like rapes my ear or something like that. A lot of double speak here. It's like, oh, just in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get it. Continue this.
If Isabella had ever told her grandmother, hey, I don't want to marry Mariano Guzman, but Dolores does, I am loath to think that Abuela would react in any way other than, oh, well, let's introduce them then. If, on screen, anybody, preferably Luisa, stood up to Abuela on anything, and then Abuela shrugged them off and insisted that her way of doing things was the only right way for the family, then I might be more willing to see this point of view. But
Okay, so you just want things to be explained explicitly. You really don't understand the culture. Yeah, he just doesn't understand because he's very ignorant. That's my takeaway from most of this video.
I think maybe he wants someone, instead of showing and not telling, to tell and not show.
But he said in the beginning, you don't tell, you show. That almost contradict, but you're probably right.
Yeah,
The movie has to tell him.
yeah.
That's sort
We've
of
all,
funny.
because it's like the only way he'd be satisfied is if one of the characters said, don't worry about telling Grandma. Why? Because long ago I told Grandma and she said, pish posh, you're stupid and I'm right. And that was how it went down. And then it'd be like, oh, Grandma's evil. But even the fact that Grandma is not explicitly evil makes the movie more nuanced than that. Grandma is not evil. She's not necessarily the bad guy, but she is responsible for what happens to these characters. But so are the rest of the characters responsible for their lives. And they're all aware of it. They just don't want to see it. Like
Just like with We
Isabel,
Don't Talk About Bruno, uncomfortable truths. No one wants to confront it. We Don't Talk About Bruno is the core theme of this. Some uncomfortable fact that we're not comfortable about. We don't talk about it.
yeah, ability for herself. And she just takes it. Like, you know what? I'm going to express myself in this way. You know? Do I need to get the approval of these people just to feel great about myself, or am I just great as I am? Um, and if they can't see it, that's their loss. You know, they're my family, but I love them. Bruno's close because he still cares about Mirabelle. He's like, I love these people. They're my family. That's his exact words. Um, but he doesn't know how to live with them. You know.
No.
So I think looking for a villain character, you're not going to find one. At least
No.
not anyone obvious. They're all
No.
complicated, and they all own a bit of the state of the family, as it were. All
They're
right, yeah,
all
yeah,
flawed in different ways that sort of just the dinner is a perfect mess. They're flawed in various little ways that come to a trend that lead to uncomfortable things shocking everyone and creating a mess. Just like Bruno's power, uncomfortable truths being revealed. It's just something they don't talk about. It's that proper sort of mindset. We just don't talk about that.
all right.
Okay, yeah. We'll get there.
everybody, even Isabella, just goes along with it. Imagine getting married to this Dollar General brand Flynn Rider knockoff because you're too self-conscious to say no to your grandma. Most people who defend Encanto say that it's a story about generational trauma. This being the idea that traumatic events can create beliefs, thoughts, and behavior patterns in one person that are then passed down intentionally or unintentionally to that person's children, grandchildren, etc.
Yeah, it's at least a better explanation. But see how he framed it, defend this? Yes, there is an
Mhm.
a certain element. Let's see if he understands it.
What does a
Yeah.
film with that theme look like? It looks like Coco, where you have ancestors issuing decrees from beyond the grave.
Okay. You obviously probably want to say something about this.
No, no, it's just like I'm letting it go because it's like, sorry, he's using another Disney movie with similar, albeit different traits. Um, I think the benefit of Coco is there's an actual villain, whereas in Encanto, if you're looking for a villain, you're gonna end up disappointed because there isn't one.
Yeah.
Um, because if
Yeah,
you
he's
come at the
definitely looking for a villain in this, and he's not buying it. This is why he's trying to search for it. Even the grandmother is a victim of circumstances. She fell in love, had 3 babies, and her and the whole town were chased off by ruffians, criminals. And she lost her husband to these ruffians, and somehow she got this miracle, and this was her protection. This was her tool to make her family and her community safe. She's not the villain. Bruno isn't the villain, but you think, given this example, he's looking for a villain, you think?
in some ways, because the only clear difference that I can think of with Coco and Encanto is there's an actual guy who will kill these characters. There's an actual guy who's working against the main character. You know,
Okay.
like he is an actual obstacle for the main characters. Um, yeah, and it's a little more straightforward than Encanto. Coco is very straightforward.
Okay, well, some people are
Yeah.
just autistic and don't get subtlety, I guess. That's completely understandable, and a lot of them are in the internet. They can't understand nuance.
And that's okay, but it
That's
makes it
okay.
very difficult for 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 someone to be a critic
Yeah.
um, when they're fighting with like, am I being this way because of my condition, um, or
Yeah,
am I
you need to
like,
have a certain mindset, sort of openness to be. I mean, you can be a shock jockey, controversial take person. There's plenty of them out there, but we shouldn't,
yeah,
as people, we shouldn't take them seriously in rating.
yeah,
There should be a critic of critics, so to speak, and
yeah,
definitely, especially on YouTube. This is sort of why I'm getting into what I'm doing. Thank you for joining me again, but I understand why it might be annoying for most people. Can't get any of my friends into this. Thankfully, you have some interest.
yeah. And I like the idea of criticizing a critic because like you really want a critic to be what they're supposed to be
Yeah,
in some ways impartial. Be willing to see the movie for what it's trying to do and grading it upon that. Um, if you're not clear on what the movie's trying to do and your audience understands it very clearly, maybe it's you, you know?
yeah.
Like,
There's some critics of critics. Like there's a guy who's getting a lot of reaction from Rags, and he's going after all these anti like Rags, Critical Drinker, a lot of the Friday Night Tights group. I reviewed
yeah,
his video last time. It was just a joke. He uses his criticism of these critics. I think you have to actually criticize critics. You have to understand where they're coming from. Try to understand where they're coming from first, which I believe both of us are trying to do with
yeah,
explanation points, trying to understand where he's coming from, where he's stumbling in his understanding of this. If he ever sees this, I hope he takes it to heart. It's probably too long. We're probably too negative. We insult people too much. I insult people too much that I criticize, but that's
you
all.
know, on the insults, and then it's like, oh, he's stupid. Like, all right, cool. I guess we're opening the door again. Um,
I'm not trying to. It's just
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm trying to keep it tame,
trying to
only
make
because
it
like,
a very constructive criticism, but just from the start, the tone, just off-put, and I generally reflect whatever gets sent out.
Yeah, even the opening video, it's like this is definitely a younger cat. Um, but yeah, yeah,
I mean, maybe he'll grow. I mean, he's doing anime now. I haven't really checked out his anime reviews, but obviously he has some success. It's a different market, so to speak.
yeah. And some critics end up becoming great filmmakers. Jeremy Stuckman,
Huh.
he ended up making his own movie,
Uh,
which has a following online. But
yeah, well, Red Letter
the
Media
guy,
did a few movies. They started out doing short movies before getting into criticism, and they even made a movie that annoyed them enough because people criticized it because it was supposed to be like a B movie. I'm
yeah,
not quite sure on that, but yeah, you should understand creating before you're a critic. You don't have to be that great. You just write a few short stories, get some feedback on it, understand the process of creating.
yeah, to get an idea. And like even the guy who made the most recent Predator movie, Prey, I remember following him back when he was on Totally Rad show with him and two other guys, criticizing movies and video games. And I remember they were reviewing the movie Predators way back in 2010, 2011.
Oh,
And like now looking at him now, like 10 years later, making Prey, and it's amazing. But he was never fully ragging on movies, if I
yeah, I
can
mean
recall
there
correctly.
there are some criticism for Prey, but overall, a lot of the critics that I followed, like it isn't great, but comparison to what how movies are going, it's good.
Yes, it's
Okay.
a breath of fresh air, dude. um,
Like I
it's
criticize him. Everyone jumped up Invincible's bomb when it came out. I'm like, this isn't that great. I mean, maybe for the superhero animated
genre.
superheroes in the last decade, it is great, but it's just average when you compare it to some of the better animated series of the '90s before things really got repetitive and lazy.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
how many retreads of the origin of Ninja Turtles or X Men did they come out with after their original '90s? Same with Batman. '90s
Or
had a
even yeah, or, or even like the dark superhero take, like the dark gritty take. It's
especially with the second season, just the whole thing with the Deep and the freaking clearly cult like Scientology sort of angle they took with him and the Nazi chick on social media. That was just too ham fisted for me in the end. But I understand where they were going to start with the Christian sort of insert with Starlight or whatever. Did you watch The Boys at all?
yes,
Yeah, you were talking about gritty superheroes, and there's a lot out there, and Invincible is one of those. And I think it overall was a good show. I would call it above average, but saying it was great, I did have like no.
yeah. All right.
Okay, yeah, we got off a tangent and we lost our point. Let's just continue with this. I mean, it's good to get off on tangents, but we do want to finish with this eventually. We're not
Yeah.
not aiming to be EFAP. I just like their process of talking, then sometimes go off on other tangents. Let's start.
Rave about what can and cannot be done by their family members. It looks like Abuela constantly fritting and fretting about Isabella's appearance because she can never be perfect enough on screen. It looks like Abuela always giving Luisa new tasks to do for the villagers until she gets overwhelmed on screen. It looks like Abuela actively shutting down discussions about Bruno on screen.
No, no, that last one. I meant they sort of do. I don't think
Hmm.
they need to do the Isabella thing with her. They do have some points there. It's something Isabella do, and you do see a lot of tasks being given to Luis. She almost does it on her own, of her own prerogative. That's how more of a culture works. It's just built in. But her bringing up Bruno would actually be defeating the purpose in this case. That's all I have to
Yeah.
say. This last point, the other two, I can see to a certain degree why it wouldn't hurt, but this last point, don't agree. It should not be her shutting this down. She created. She's the most
Mhm.
ignorant on Bruno out of everyone. She's
Yeah.
almost like the person who heard. That's just my impression on it from the text, that this would actually be a bad idea. This last point. The other two would be fine, and they sort of do it. Any thoughts before we move on?
No, no, no. I'm good. I'm good.
No, you're like, stop listening to these horrible. Just watch it and get through these horrible points.
And sure, you can have these characters tell us all you want that their family is falling apart and that their grandmother is a tyrant, but when you have smiles like this and parties like this as the norm on screen, then I'm gonna have a hard time believing it. But what about Mirabelle? Surely I can't believe that her treatment of Mirabelle is justified. Oh, viewer, you underestimate my ability to form and defend bad takes. Why is the miracle dying? I don't know. Abuela certainly doesn't know. But here's the thing, it cannot be because of the way Abuela treats Mirabelle specifically, because it started with Mirabelle not getting a gift. And even if it was meant to be because of the way Abuela pressures the rest.
Really? Oh, he's trying to find a reason for the gift. I wonder if this guy understands religion or faith at all. The test of faith, you're given a
Yeah.
miracle. Sometimes there's a test of faith involved in that.
Yeah.
People given great power and who abuse it sort of, yeah, they don't say what miracle for her. So,
Hold on. Hold on. Oh wow. Okay. All right. He's not really seeing the movie. All right. Cool. 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 I was trying to listen to it through your computer through the chat. Um. And it got a little staticky, but
okay.
sorry. I just think that he didn't see the same movie because he's saying like, oh well, the pressure started because the magic was falling apart. But the point of the cracks was a metaphor for how there were cracks in the family before the candle started wisping away in the first place. Because
Yes, the
like
love for the family is sort of the magic.
yeah, but the thing that was causing the pressure for all of them was this look, this look on the outside, like, hey, we're great, we're doing all right. And it's in the pressure song, like, I have pressure to live up to the fact that I can handle all of this, but I cannot. The reason why they look so happy is because it's fake. They are pretending. Like Bruno does not look happy when you meet him. He is absolutely depressed. Mirabelle, within the first 10 minutes of the movie, is not necessarily happy because she's trying to deflect from any question involving what makes her so special, because she doesn't believe she's special. It's clear, clear as crystal. You lose, you get nothing. Sorry.
Yeah, he's not really. I mean, he's looking into trying to find a reason. I mean, I could give reasons like the faith of the family. Yeah, it wasn't Mirabella who caused it. That was sort of the lack of the love that caused the miracle in the first place. If I had to guess at a reason, her love caused by the death of her husband gave her the miracle. And
Yeah.
once the family
Okay.
kept going, Bruno Bruno was the first linchpin in this sort of the cracks forming. People started, because of his power, people started doubting. People in the family, people in the village started doubting the validity of this miracle. So he just sort of slinked into the shadows, and she didn't try to stop it. She wasn't, the grandmother wasn't even aware Bruno was living. Maybe even the whole family was aware Bruno was living there, except for Mirabella. I wouldn't go that far, but you definitely get the impression it's very easy to tell. You have to almost actively be ignorant to not realize Bruno's living in the walls when you're old enough.
Mm-hmm.
They have to actively ignore the fact that he's there. They don't say it in the text, but I could definitely believe it. Bruno's ostracization, the ostracization of the only male of the three triplets, which I find interesting social commentary to a certain extent. You
Yeah,
demonize the men for just telling the truth and seeing how reality is,
yeah,
and you go with that and your power, your faith, people are going to lose that. No matter how good you look on the outside, there's going to be fundamental flaws, like with the writing of a lot of Disney movies. And the VFX even are suffering nowadays because of different issues. Did you hear about that? They really don't pay these VFX artists as much,
oh
and they
yeah,
work them like dogs.
yeah. They pay them just to take the job, and the money that they're paid is just to cover the work period in which they agreed to work. But when you have to do reshoots, because you're dealing with directors who don't know how special effects work, you have to spend weeks or months reworking all that special effects, and you stay up all night doing it. Um, so yeah, I totally get where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, but that just the sort of social commentary I can do a reading of Encanto, which isn't explicit, and I think that actually works best to put some hard truths in front of people in a artistic form that is very reading's wrong. Well, I can come up with it's in the text. You have the male and you have the trickster sort of shapeshifter guy and you have the youngest boy who's just very friendly and almost effeminate in a certain way. You can take a certain reading of it in that way and it's very interesting. I don't know if that's what intended, but you could do a reading of that. That's why I find this fascinating. Either intentionally or unintentionally, this has some significant underpinnings. And since there is no villain, it really is sort of like our current culture. There isn't really villains. Some people just look bad to others, and other people are just blissfully ignorant of other things. And some people have problem trying to fix the problems, aren't really concerned about all the politic and bullshit that going on. You know what I mean? But that
Yeah,
could
yeah,
just that's an
and that,
interesting reading of mine.
and I guess on first viewing, I could definitely see like, oh, we're shelving the guy in the family, to make way for our other. All of our daughters are special and talented and gifted.
And one's
Um,
a super strong female who's so go hard and such a good worker.
yeah, yeah,
But we're gonna have the pretty one and marry the pretty one off.
yeah, and I think I've seen a lot more of that sort of like shelving the guy thing more in shows that have come out this year versus in Encanto. Where Encanto is like, cool, we have Bruno in the closet, but we also have the husbands who are free to do whatever they want. We have the love interest of the daughters who's free to do whatever he wants. He really does want to get married. We have the younger brother who can shapeshift. He's free to do whatever he wants.
Oh,
Um,
non-binary or gender fluid. I'm sure a lot of I'm sure a shapeshifter character.
yeah,
That whole community loves the shapeshifter idea. I remember there was actually a series I really liked called Gone that went really woke, and they had like a non-binary. It was really ham-fisted. Non-binary character. I think it was a trans girl or guy who got the shapeshifting power, and it was really like ham-fisted woke, just too
well,
over the top for me.
you know what? Another day we should talk about how um, this movie isn't a great example of this, but after the Lord of the Rings show comes out,
Oh.
um, we should check it out and then like talk about like the idea of shelving men for women. I suppose
Yeah, enough.
instead of like letting women be strong on their own without having to cripple the dudes. Um,
Absolutely. Everyone's going to be talking about that. We could
yeah,
probably put a different perspective on it.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
want to do that, that would be an excellent thing to do.
yeah, yeah. Instead, because I only have a few more minutes until midnight, and I want to get through the final 5 minutes of this video.
Okay, okay. Yeah, okay. Let's continue with it. See how many more bad. I'll try to refrain from pausing. You pause if need be.
Rest of the family to
Cool, cool,
succeed, that
cool.
doesn't make any sense because the pressuring started because the miracle was dying. If we admit that there's pressuring at all, which I don't, everyone in this family is happy. Everyone except for Luisa, Isabella, and Mirabel. Luisa because she's asked to physically lift too many things.
What? No Bruno in there? Sorry, just gotta put that out. He
Yeah,
just
Bruno's fine. He's
oh well, he
chilling.
did completely cover up Bruno. Maybe that's point. Let's get to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Isabella because she refuses to stand up for herself, and Mirabel because she is a self-admitted, powerless, pathetic, and jealous little scrub with no magic who nobody listens to about the
Fuck off. Okay, that's a horrible characterization. She puts on a bright smile and works the background. Oh,
She's made to look like she's jealous by accident because she's trying to expose things that are happening, and people just assume that wow. It's like, wow,
yeah,
what
she's
a
not jealous. She's doing her best job with her abilities. She's struggling
yeah,
for it. What makes she doesn't like Isabella because Isabella is a prima donna. Maybe
yeah.
she
She's a
didn't
jerk.
force. Maybe she doesn't want to play that role, but that is the role she plays in the family. And is Mirabella is fooled by the act as much as everyone else. Mirabella is very ignorant. She tries to be blissful, but she finds out a little secret. This guy is just making me want to
And
interject so much. Sorry.
and Mirabelle, when she's with her sister, the prima donna or whatever, she isn't jealous. She's actually trying to help her sister, and it works. Which is totally going against the idea that she's just this vindictive little girl. Like she's not. She's not.
Well,
You
maybe
can't
he's
really look
just
at
getting the suppression from the internet. The explanation point obviously is very influenced by what he hears on the internet. Probably trying to stay on those trends. How you become a good YouTuber by just either agreeing with everyone or just having such a contradictory idea to everyone. People are like, you're shit. But people, what? Ugh,
yeah,
if you do it
yeah.
funny enough in a funny enough manner with enough graphics, maybe people will have pity on you and be like, okay, he has potential. I can see some points, but no. Okay,
Yeah.
let's go.
demise of their family because their family is legitimately doing fine. But okay, let's look at the way Abuela treats Mirabel. Frankly, given that Abuela has every reason to believe that Mirabel is the reason the miracle is dying, I think she treats her surprisingly well. Mirabel does not get a gift, which is really super mega sus. Bruno goes to Abuela with his vision about Mirabel potentially causing the end of the miracle. If Bruno cannot be wrong, that's bad. If Bruno can be wrong, then that's not a superpower, I can do that.
Well, does even the grandmother know about? Didn't Bruno hide that prediction?
No, he showed it to her, and he showed her the
Oh,
fact that if you hold it a certain way, it looks like the house is fine. If you hold it another way, it looks like the house is destroyed. Even Bruno has no idea what can happen in regards to the house or with Mirabelle.
okay. It's been well, it
Yeah,
hasn't been a while. I just didn't pay attention to that last time around.
because he's finding things that just aren't there. So it's like it's like gaslighting. It's like, am I being lied to? Is this in the movie? It's not in the movie. Well, everything he's talking about is bull. Go on.
Okay.
Mirabel interrupts Antonio's gift ceremony by claiming that the house is falling apart, which is something that only she witnesses, which makes it look like a jealous hissy fit from the point of view of anybody else. Mirabel sticks her nose into every family sore spot trying to figure out what's going on behind the scenes, which makes Abuela think that her meddling is making things worse, because that's when the cracks start forming. And for the longest time, all this woman does is
But that's contradictory. If she's the first one who warned about the cracks, the logic is just really weird here. It's like a weird double standard here.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, she warned about the cracks, then her poking and prodding caused the cracks. I mean, him trying to understand the grandmother character is having some logical consistencies come up in his reading of the grandma.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
he's defending the grandma too hard. I mean, he's trying to look from the grandma's perspective, but the double standards in his thinking. Mirabella warned about the cracks, so she was looking for the attention. Her looking at the stuff was causing the cracks.
Is say, hey, Mirabelle, maybe stay out of the way. If Abuela were anywhere near as controlling and vindictive as the internet makes her out to be, Mirabelle would have been Bruno'd day one. And when Abuela finally does blow up...
So much wrong. Sorry, Aaron. Bruno slinked away on his own. Bruno'd? Yeah, I know, Aaron. You're like, yeah, we already went over this.
I know, but you're right. You're right. He did leave on his. He did hide away on his own because he was.
Everyone thought he left. It was just social pressure that had him cause that. It's like
Yeah.
passive aggressive emotion from the grandma over a long. It's like gaslighting. It's like this video. So no wonder he sympathized with the grandmother. He's gaslighting the audience to a certain extent. The grandmother gaslights the unwanted children to a certain extent to sort of give a certain impression. You don't need passive aggressiveness. Actually, is a very. I don't like gender role. I don't like to generalize, but men tend to be more angry and more conflictual. Women, it suits them to be more passive aggressive and not directly deal with problems, but just give off a certain oppression over a long time to sort of let their feelings out known without directly saying it. This is why saying the grandmother needs to show that she's doing all this. She does not need to show this. Little actions in the show, in the movie does show she have this general passive aggressive attitude to all this. She doesn't need, this guy needs people to directly say it.
Or even just the idea of like the fact that Bruno is a guy who tells people the future, and his idea in the execution is you can prevent this. You're gonna get fat. You're gonna lose your hair. You're gonna lose your fish, and the family's in trouble. All right. He's trying to save the day by telling people about these grim omens that are coming. Because like even when you
Are
see
you
him,
trying to mansplain to Grandma? Is Bruno mansplaining to Grandma? Is that why
he is the cad. But like he's really trying to defend everything. Like even when he's walking, he's trying to be as careful as possible. Like you see him sort of like stepping on certain parts of the floor. He's throwing salt over his shoulder all the time just to make sure he's got good luck on his side. He
superstition?
is
Yeah.
constantly on the defense, of the future because like the future just drives him crazy.
Like Final Destination sort of shit. Knowing death's coming for you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. That's all I got. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
and scream at Mirabelle, it's only after Mirabelle has finally seemingly caused exactly what Abuela was afraid would happen. And look what she says.
The cracks started with you.
True.
Bruno left because of you.
True.
Luisa's losing her powers because of...
No, it's not. Why is he saying true? Does he really believe this stuff? Is he really just... Yeah, he's just the grandma in a younger male form. That's what I got. He's agreeing with the grandma too much. This is bullshit. Okay. Yeah. He is assuming all the cracks. So much wrong. He's just the grandma in a younger body, obviously, on YouTube.
You.
Technically false, but very reasonable to think.
Isabella's out of control because of you.
True. From Abuela's point of view, Mirabelle's existence is literally tearing her house apart. Given the circumstances, I don't see how anybody can argue that she's been anything but exceedingly fair to the poor Maleficent.
Because like because for me, I believe he's missing the point is the powers are not that important compared to the family. Like
Yes, the grandma
if you,
loses her way. She gets obsessed with the powers of her family and doesn't care about her family. I mean, she
yeah,
does care about her family, but she cares more about the idea of her family in the community instead of her family as individuals, so to speak.
yeah, yeah. They've got wants and needs, but she's not seeing that. And when she looks at her granddaughter Mirabelle, she's just seeing the fact that she's powerless and everything is falling apart because of her. Um,
But that's
she,
because of the grandma's decisions for the family. I hope
yeah,
he freaking acknowledges the fact that it's the grandma who's over time lost her way is the reason Maribel didn't get the power, most likely. In a lot of elements, he, she's the one who started the miracle. Everything with her children having the miracles all comes back to her. No matter
yeah,
what happens with the children, Bruno's power, she didn't push it away and didn't accept the reality of the usefulness of his power, and she's being punished. And that's
yeah.
how that goes.
And like when I had a point I wanted to make, like how the grandmother um never it never seems like these kids, the grandchildren really see themselves having an identity outside of their power. So when you're considering the fact that like their identity is attached to their power, and this grandmother is worried about the miracle, which are the powers, um, she seems to focus almost entirely on them. And the fact that Mirabelle isn't even considered by grandma for the picture, like she's already been Bruno by the fact that she doesn't have an ability. Like she's in the background, not really catered to at all, really. Whereas like the other kids who have abilities are catered to. Like if Grandma was such a great character, she'd be concerned with the fact that the house is falling apart before Mirabelle did anything. The house is falling apart when Louisa was breaking her head mentally, emotionally. She's falling apart because she's stressed out. Or the image that I forget her name, Ileana, basically Mirabelle's sister puts on. It's stressful. It's too much.
Yep.
Too much. Um,
It's you could definitely do a metaphorical read in the stressing of everyone slowly accumulating is causing the cracks forming. And Mirabella, by hugging Isabella at the end, almost saved the family, but then the grandma had to come in and accommodate her for it. So that created more stress in the family that just broke the house in the end and broke the miracle. The
yeah,
stress is of the family foundation, the family house. You could definitely do a metaphorical reading of this that would be probably close to what the creators were going for with the metaphorical subtext or text.
yeah,
Metatext? I don't know. But I don't know the exact terminology. I don't think terminology is something that should be focused on nitpicking or getting right. As long as the idea, the metaphorical underlying pin of this, maybe just doesn't like metaphorical storytelling, which this has. This has metaphorical storytelling with the supernatural elements and some really strong character interactions, uh, just writing wise, which I think makes it a very good, if not great, Disney movie for children at least.
yeah, yeah. All right.
It's not super complex. Yeah, you're like, okay, I love all these discussions, but it's late.
Child. In the
Yeah,
end, Encanto is a film that tries to do a lot of important things, and I think people see the messages that it's trying to send and they mistake that for sending those messages. They see Luisa singing about bearing all the pressure of her family, and they're
whoa, sorry. Wasn't the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I think they see the messages that this movie is trying to send and they confuse it for the movie sending the message. It's right there in front of you. if the directors had the intention of making a movie about this sort of trauma and about this sort of family reaction. And everyone in the audience got it, but you, it's you. Sorry.
So happy to
No,
see a character who
absolutely
deals with
understand.
the same things they do that they just take her at her word and assume that she actually does, regardless of whether or not that's shown on screen. There is nothing wrong with projecting yourself onto a character or situation. One of my most popular videos is basically just me doing exactly that, and I think it turned
Oh, did he really do a video? No wonder this guy's such a fucking brainlet if he made a video like that. ReZero, incel hero, ReZero is the ultimate. God. No wonder he has such a bad take with that if he had a bad take on ReZero. And someone needs to tear into him for that. No, maybe I will. Who knows?
turned out really well, but it's very
No, that is so dumb. Oh, I might have to tear into that. Sorry.
important to separate the reality of what's on screen from the subjective catharsis that comes from seeing struggles like yours represented in a blockbuster movie. There are movies that exist that deal with these kinds of issues that speak.
Oh, really? He's putting Turning Red up there, something just so in your face, and Heredity.
Yeah.
Oh, God, this guy's just dumb and can't actually.
Speaks so deeply to so many people, and there are movies that treat those issues with all the depth and care that they deserved. This is not one of those movies, and you can ask for more. So I was gonna do this cool parody of We Don't Talk About Bruno to close out the video and beg you for money, but then
Okay, I think we've watched enough. I think
Yeah.
he showed it beg for money, his sponsorship. He's just trying to piss people off, I think, or he's really fucking dumb. Is him pimping out Isekai Hero is like, I would have to watch it, but if it's anyone as bad as this one, I'm sure if he was worth anything. Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be a big no for me to watch any more of his content, man. But like, I think what we said was great. I really have to get ready for bed though.
Yeah, I
It's
figure as
so
much.
well
You're not the
timed.
night owl, me, so that's why we started when we did. If someone was here in time, we could have finished up early.
Yeah, you know, I was you.
Okay, it's
I
fine. It's fine. I'm just giving you shit. I understand.
yeah.
She who will not be named was like, "You starting at 8?" I'm like, 8-ish, okay." Ah,
Yeah,
you
I
got here, but
would have done it.
if you want to
Never
watch
know.
it, if you want to watch him rip into it, I'm definitely down for that sometime. Okay.
Yeah, and I'd be down to even say like, maybe sometimes our opinions are kind of wrong. Like, there's some movies and shows where it's like I had no idea it was gonna be that great. All right, all
Yeah.
right. I'm gonna let you go. All right,
Yeah.
peace.
Take care, man. I'm gonna play out this video with the rest of this video. I tried to pimp out. Okay. Or just play the whole thing for the end. Enjoy. Or not.